However, Amy did not give him the chance to say anything as she looked at him and said, "Look at your hands, they are so dirty. I reckon you haven't washed them for years, right? Even ugly ducklings' paws are cleaner than your hands. Also, those dirty clothes, have you not changed your clothes for 2 winters? But there's also summer in between. It must be because you're too lazy. Besides, is it that difficult to wash your face every morning when you wake up? Look at how clean that grandpa's face is. This is the reason why others have a wife." Elton took 3 steps back and put his hand over his heart. He felt as though he had been dealt with a heavy blow. "Father said that the grandma and grandpa cleaners give us a clean 8 square every day, and it is very cold and very hard on them, so I woke up earlier with the other older sisters and made scrumptious breakfast for everyone. Why would I despise you all for being dirty?" Amy said with a smile to everyone. After that, her gaze landed on Elton and she said with disdain, "But you are really dirty." Elton took another 3 steps back. He felt as though he could not breathe properly anymore. Many of the cleaners felt bad. "That's true. Mr. Mag and these pretty ladies do not have the duty to do all this, waking up early for us, making breakfast for us, and treating us like the customers in the restaurant. How could we actually not be content?" Hearing the little girl's words made everyone feel worse. They all looked at Mag. Old Jack looked at Elton, and solemnly said, "Elton, Mr. Mag has already done so much for us. How can you have the cheek to trouble him even more because of you? Even if Mr. Mag doesn't mind, what about those people dressed up nicely to eat at the restaurant? Would they be willing to spend so much money just to sit where we sat? You make me not want to be in the same team as you." Old Jack turned to Mr. Mag and apologetically said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Mag. If we've troubled you, there is no need to make breakfast for us in the future. This wasn't part of what you needed to do anyway." The cleaners all stood up. Although they did not say anything, they were all looking at Elton with disdain. Realizing that he seemed to have angered everyone, Elton's eyes darted around. He coughed twice and squeezed out a smile as he said, "Actually, I was just kidding, don't take it to heart. I can just sit on the stairs." After he said that, he quickly escaped to the corner of the stairs and started drinking his porridge with a spoon as he held the bowl in his hand. Just that tiny piece of meat was enough to make him feel like he had tasted the best food in the world. How could he just let that go? Mag glanced at Elton, and then smiled at the other cleaners as he said, "Let's continue eating. There's more in the pot." Upon hearing him say that, the cleaners went back to eat. "Old Jack, you and the old lady should have your breakfast quickly too. It won't taste nice if it turns cold," Mag said with a smile to Old Jack. "You're really a good person," Old Jack said with a complicated expression. He brought the old lady over beside the stairs, and started drinking his porridge. "He is not foolishly kind. Boss Mag is indeed a smart and kind person." Harrison glanced at the cleaners sitting at the stairs, and then at Mag with admiration. "Yeah. Clout Bakery used to have really good business, but because it provided homeless people with an unlimited supply of food, it ended up closing down within half a month. What's worse is that the owner of the shop even got beaten and crippled by the homeless people. Now he's also homeless," George said with a nod and sigh. "Wow! This porridge is really delicious." A cleaner put a spoonful of porridge in his mouth. The lean meat that melted in his mouth with the porridge and the unique texture of the century egg were a one-of-a-kind experience. For someone who usually only drank plain porridge or ate buns without any filling, such a bowl of porridge filled with the fragrance of meat was simply a delicacy. After swallowing the mouthful of porridge, the warmth slid down the throat, straight into the stomach, and spread all over, making the cold body feel warm from inside out. "Delicious! I've never had such delicious porridge before." The praises started as the cleaners sat on the stairs eating their congee with pork and century egg with their faces brimming with happiness. The cold was expelled by the warm porridge, and their tiredness also disappeared. The delicious porridge filled the emptiness in their stomach, and turned into energy pumped into their bodies. Mag smiled when he saw that. Although he had never thought of himself as a good person, he had to admit that doing kind acts would make one feel good. Yabimiya and the rest also smiled. Although they had to wake up a lot earlier than usual, it still felt good. Grumble. Harrison and George covered their stomachs at the same time, and their gazes fell on the big pot at the side. Father, I want to eat that porridge too. Amy raised her little hand and pointed at the huge pot as she said with certainty, a big bowl. All right, I'll get some for you. Mag nodded with a smile. He scooped a huge bowl of congee with pork and century egg for Amy, and placed it on the table at the side. Amy crawled up the chair happily and started drinking the porridge with a spoon. Meow Ugly Duckling also came running over with its bowl in its mouth, circling around Amy's chair as it called out to Amy eagerly. Save it, Ugly Duckling. It's not time for your breakfast yet, Amy replied with a shake of her head as she glanced down at Ugly Duckling. Boss Mag, we came especially early this morning. Can you let us try your new dish too? Harrison asked with a smile. George also looked expectantly at Mag. Just then, a few other customers came over and saw the cleaners sitting together, and smelled the enticing aroma. They all looked at Mag. To have a bowl of delicious porridge on such a cold day was simply bliss. I'm sorry, it's not operating hours yet. Please wait for a while. This is today's new dish. You can order it later when we open later. Mag shook his head with a smile. It did not seem like there was room for negotiation. Harrison also knew Mag's temper and the restaurant's rules. Seeing Mag shake his head, he did not continue pushing for it, and forced himself not to look at the cleaners. However, he could not help but stare at Amy, who was eating happily. Little boss, is this congee with pork and century egg good? Harrison asked with a smile. Let me show you. Amy scooped up a century egg and bit into it softly. The century egg dented inwards, and when she let go, it reverted to its original shape. Just like that, Amy bit softly and let go multiple times before finally chewing it up and swallowing it down. After that, she smiled brightly. Little boss, you are really mischievous, Harrison grumbled grudgingly. Why do I have to go through such torture early in the morning? I suddenly want to be a cleaner. Is this congee with pork and century egg so good? It looks like I have to change my breakfast menu today. The customers in the line were very unhappy and envious. A slightly plump cleaner finished his bowl of porridge and walked over to the pot with his bowl as he hesitantly asked, Can I have another sip of porridge? Of course. I've prepared sufficient porridge for everyone. It's enough even if everyone gets a second serving. Mag smiled and nodded. He took the bowl over and scooped some more porridge for him. Porridge was never filling, especially for people like them who had been starving. Thank you, that cleaner said gratefully. He held the bowl with both hands and went back to the steps carefully. When they heard what Mag said, many cleaners came over with their bowl to get a second helping. It was the first time they had tasted such delicious porridge. It would really be a bliss to be able to have another bowl of it. The porridge was very delicious, and the cleaners finished their 2 bowls of porridge in no time at all. Old Jack and his wife helped to collect the silverware and lay it neatly on the table at the side. The cleaners all expressed their gratitude to Mag with a smile on their extra rosy cheeks. Burp. Elton let out a satisfied burp. If it were not because he really could not drink any more of the porridge after 3 bowls, he would have gotten another bowl. He put the bowl casually on the table at the side and glanced into the large pot that still had quite a lot of congee with pork and century egg left inside. His eyes lit up, and he said to Mag with a chuckle, Boss Mag, we've already had some of this porridge, so you're going to throw the rest out, right? Why don't you give it to me? I'll bring it back and have it for lunch. Otherwise, it would be such a waste to throw it out. The rest is our breakfast. It will not be thrown out. Mag brought the lid over and covered the pot. He calmly told Elton, "I am not as high and mighty as you think, and there is also no need to put yourself down. We are all just ordinary people. My daughter is eating the same food as you had in your bowl. So are all of us." The cleaners who were about to leave looked at Mag and the cute little girl who was licking her huge bowl, and their eyes suddenly became a little moist. The customers, who were standing at the side, thought for a while. They initially minded that they had to use the silverware used by the cleaners, but felt a little guilty for thinking that way. Now, they were looking at Mag with admiration. Elton was dumbfounded for a while. He realized that the mood was a little off. He did not think that a wealthy owner of a restaurant like Mag would actually eat something from the same pot as they ate. Since his little ploy was foiled, Elton embarrassedly said, "I see, then. I won't ask for it. You guys go ahead." After saying that, he walked away quickly to grab his things and left. Mr. Mag Elton is just like that. He just likes to go for free things, but his character isn't that bad. I hope you don't take it to heart. I will talk to him about it after this, old Jack told Mag apologetically. He was the first to know Mag, so he would feel a little bad that something like this were to happen. "It's all right." Mag shook his head and smiled. After that, he looked at everyone and said, "It's still 6:30 am tomorrow morning. Remember to be on time." After the cleaners showed their appreciation, they left with their tools because there was still a lot of cleaning work waiting for them to do. However, after having the piping hot congee with pork and century egg, they felt warm and energized all over. They even had more gusto to sweep. Yabimiya brought the remaining pot of congee with pork and century egg back into the restaurant. The rest followed along after cleaning the silverware up. "I heard that the breakfast boss Mag provided for the cleaners at Aiden Square is the new product that he is going to launch." "Yes, I came early and happened to see it. The cleaners had a great time eating it. One look and I can tell that it's very delicious. Boss Mag is such a great person. I must try this congee with pork and century egg later and see how good it is." The customers started flowing in, and the news of Mag providing the new product as breakfast for the cleaners soon spread all over, spawning quite a few discussions. Meanwhile, in the restaurant, Mag and the others were indeed having the leftover congee with pork and century egg for breakfast. This porridge is really delicious. It melts in the mouth, and the texture is a little sticky. The fragrance of the meat has completely infused into the porridge, and the century egg does not taste like a duck's egg at all. It's chewy and super delicious. Yabimiya said with surprise as she moved her mouth and swallowed a mouthful of porridge. Everyone else was also pleasantly surprised when they tasted the congee with pork and century egg. It was even better than they thought, and the chewy and beautiful century egg gave them a special culinary experience. "Father, can I have a yushao? I think it would taste very good with this porridge." Amy raised her hand and got herself another bowl of porridge. "Who else wants the yushao? Raise your hand," Mag said as he got up to walk to the kitchen. "I want one, then." Mia raised her hand. "I want it too." Anna raised her little hand. "Meow." Ugly Duckling tried its best to raise one paw. "No, you do not want it." Amy pressed its paw back down. Meow. Ugly Duckling watched Amy grudgingly. Its aggrieved look made one pity it. Amy lowered her head and seriously asked it, "You can't wait to grow up, huh? I heard from father that the best weight for the ducks used in roast duck is 5 kilos. Ugly Duckling stared wide-eyed at her and quickly shook its head hard as it retreated to Anna's side, hiding quickly behind Anna. Outside the restaurant, the customers had already formed a long line, making the corner of the desolate square look very lively. "Please make way." Just then, a black horse-drawn carriage stopped in front of the restaurant. Adams jumped out from the horse-drawn carriage and told the driver, "Take the things out." "Yes." The driver went into the carriage and brought out a long board covered with a red cloth carefully. "What is this?" The customers in the line all looked at the long board that was taller than a person. What is this person going to do? Adams adjusted his armor and walked to the restaurant's door. He reached out, knocked, and loudly said, "Boss Mag, please open up for a while. There's something I want to pass to you." Mag, who just came out from the kitchen with the yueshao, heard him and put the yueshao on the table. He motioned for the ladies to start eating first before going to open the door. When he saw Adams and the driver, who was carrying the long board, he was puzzled. Chapter 1153. Congratulations on earning the title Master of Hair Growth. However, he still had a head full of hair just the day before, and his hair was so short he seemed almost bald today. He could only see very sparse and short hair. Indeed, some people appear glamorous, but in reality, his hair was probably almost gone under that wig, Mag thought. However, what was he doing early in the morning with someone and also this suspicious-looking object? "Boss Mag, I am here to gift you this memorial tablet," Adams said agitatedly. "Memorial tablet?" Mag raised his eyebrows. "Is he here to cause trouble early in the morning? Why is he here to give me a tablet? Isn't that a bit too much?" The other customers all looked over when they heard that. This young man looked pretty handsome and jovial, but from what he said, could he be here to cause trouble? No, I said it wrong, it's a signboard as a token of appreciation." Adams quickly realized his mistake and shook his head. He turned around to pull the red cloth off the long signboard, revealing a glimmering gold signboard made of pure gold. "Master of Hair Growth." Harrison, who was lining up right at the front, blurted out. Mag looked at the glimmering gold signboard and the 4 big words made from pure gold. His jaw dropped, and he had no idea what to say for a moment. The regulars in the line looked at the newly sprouted short hair on Adams's head, then at the glimmering signboard, and they suddenly seemed to have understood what was going on. I really can't accept this." Mag shook his head. He ran a restaurant. Where would he hang a signboard that said Master of Hair Growth? What if others learned from Adams, and sent him flags with Miracle Healer or Gynecology Expert? "Your unique creation has changed my life. This signboard is just a token of appreciation. If you can't even accept this, no one else in this world can. Please do accept it," Adams said with sincerity. He got someone to make it for him yesterday, and made sure to personally send it over this morning so that he could express his gratitude. "Boss Mag, just accept it. Look at this signboard, it's bright and shiny. It would be very eye-catching if you hung it at the door. It would also help to raise the restaurant's reputation," Harrison said with a chuckle. "That's right, Boss Mag. He did it so that he could thank you. You've done a good deed, so just accept it," someone else chimed in quickly. "Should I also make a signboard for Boss Mag as a token of my appreciation?" Jay said thoughtfully as he looked at the signboard. "Boss Mag, please accept it." Adams was very sincere. Mag fell silent for a while as he looked at Adams's sincere face and listened to the other customers' words. He thought that he should not refuse any more, so he nodded unwillingly and said to Adams, "It would not be very nice for me to reject it, since it's your sincerity, but accepting this signboard doesn't mean I will hang it up. I will keep this and treasure it well." Adams was a little disappointed when he heard Mag say that he would not hang it up, but he quickly smiled again, nodding, and said, "Sure. Boss Mag, you decide what you want to do with it. It's all right as long as you are willing to accept my sincerity." "You're too polite." Mag nodded. He heaved a sigh in relief secretly. If Adams were to make him hang this signboard up there, then Mamie Restaurant might end up as Mamie Hair Growth Shop. "I'll get him to bring that signboard in for you. It's a little heavy." Adams moved to the side to let the driver in. "That won't be necessary. I will bring it in myself." Mag received the signboard from the driver. This signboard felt as though it was made from pure gold, so it was indeed quite heavy. If he were to hang it outside, he reckoned it would probably be stolen by the second day. Then I will go back to have my meal. I still have to send Amy to school later. As he said that, he turned to walk into the restaurant with the signboard in his arms. Go back first, Adams told the driver as he walked right to the end of the line. So young Master Adams's hair started growing because he ate Boss Mag's Buddha jumps over the wall. The only thing that we don't know is if he has any connections to Boss Mag. A middle-aged man in the line watched as Adams joined the line, and thought, if I were to tell old Master Charney about this, there might be some progress with the business plan I was talking to him about. I heard that he had been deeply concerned about his hair loss problems when he was young. All the women sitting at the table stared when Mag came back carrying a shining golden signboard after going out for a while. Father, what is that? Amy asked curiously. Mia read the words on the signboard and curiously asked, Master of Hair Growth? What title is that? Mag looked at all the curious faces, and explained, a customer gave it to me. He said that I changed his life, so he gave me this signboard as a token of appreciation. Then why don't you hang it outside so everyone can see it? Anna asked curiously. Don't you think that it's weird for a restaurant to have a Master of Hair Growth signboard? Babla said as she looked at the signboard. Yes, we're a restaurant, after all. It's not nice to reject a customer's kind thoughts, but this signboard really isn't suitable for hanging at the door. Mag nodded in agreement. He carried the signboard to the stairs as he said, continue eating, I'll bring this up. Just then, the system sounded in Mag's head. Ding! Congratulations on receiving the title Master of Hair Growth and activating the hidden mission. Hair loss has a negative impact on a person physically and mentally. As the candidate for the god of cookery, you need to have a caring heart and help those who are deeply troubled by hair loss problems so that they can regain their head of luscious hair and start their life anew. You have to help 30 people with hair loss problems say goodbye to their hair loss troubles in 3 days. Mission success, you'll gain the recipe for steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. Mission failure, the host will become irreversibly bald. Mission progress, 6/30. F***CK. Mag almost blurted out. System, that's such vicious punishment. What's with becoming bald? Mag rolled his eyes. Saving a bald is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Host, good luck, the system encouraged before disappearing completely. F***CK. Mag looked at the signboard in his arms, and suddenly had the urge to hang it up. After all, he had only helped 6 people with hair loss problems after 2 days of launching Buddha jumps over the wall. Who knew when he would be able to finish with the remaining 24? When he left, Mag took special notice of the ratio of bald customers lining up outside. He took a quick glance and saw that there were only 2 middle-aged balding customers in the line other than Adams when balding people could be seen so often around. Hair loss is such a depressing problem. Mag sighed and pedaled on the bicycle as he sent Amy to school. As he passed by Find All job finding service, the owner of the place, Chris, happened to be watering the plants outside. Good morning, Mr. Nest, Amy greeted with a smile. Good morning, little boss, Chris replied a little helplessly as he looked up. Mamie Restaurant had already become the hottest restaurant in Chaos City during this period of time, so he had also gone over to try the food there once. Although the job-finding service brought in quite a lot of income for him, he still could not bear to fork out a few hundred or a few thousand copper coins for a meal, so he had only gone over once. Mag also smiled and nodded at Chris. His gaze was on Chris's head for a while. What a perfect balding person! It would be perfect if he could go over to have Buddha jumps over the wall just once. Ding! System warning. Do not actively approach customers, otherwise it will be considered going against the rules, and that will amount to immediate failure. Before Mag could even say anything, the system's voice already sounded in Mag's head. System, isn't that too much? Basic advertising doesn't go against trading rules. What rights do you have to say that I'm not allowed to promote my products? Mag frowned. Host, as a candidate for the god of cookery, how can you do things like soliciting customers? This is not to be expected of someone your level. Are you looking down on women who make their keep with their own bodies? Mag said seriously. What did they do wrong? Aren't they also working for their keep? I remember that there was a little alley where a lot of young ladies lived back in the day. They would always stand at the door to chill, and they were very welcoming. They would always invite me to their house to play. What wonderful young ladies! But because there were too many people who wanted to make the place rise to become a big city, the alley was gone, and so were the welcoming young ladies. Tell me, is this right? Mag continued. Isn't welcoming a word with positive connotations in the human language system? Why then would they be chased away? System searching. No information in the database. No answer to the question. Engaging machine learning mode. System learning in progress. Mag was still waiting for the system's reply when the string of words floated across his mind. What a knowledge-seeking system! Mag raised his brow. No one knew how long it would take the system this time. Mr. Nest, why don't you eat the Buddha jumps over the wall from our restaurant? Amy already asked curiously before Mag could say anything. That way, your hair will be able to grow out. Hair will be able to grow out. Chris's eyes lit up immediately. He looked at Amy in surprise, and said, Little boss, is that true? After eating that Buddha jumps over the wall, my hair will be able to grow out. Yes. There are already a lot of uncles and big brothers without hair who started growing hair after eating the Buddha jumps over the wall from our restaurant. Amy nodded, and added, but Mr. Nest, you have to come at night because the Buddha jumps over the wall is only available at night. All right, all right, all right. I will definitely go. Chris nodded quickly. If there was anything in this world that he cared about more than earning money, it would be the fact that his hair was thinning. As he watched the bald patch at the crown of his head expand and treasured the remaining hair he had left every day, the sudden news of being able to solve his problem was really a surprise to him. Mag looked at Amy, who had already closed the deal, in shock. He did not think that Amy had already done it without him saying a word. It seemed like this little fellow was pretty good at business. Judging from Chris's eagerness to go to Mamie restaurant, this customer could basically be counted in the hair-growing group. Mag continued on towards Amy's school on his bicycle. As he walked Amy into the school, Mag could immediately see a few bald and balding heads. This was indeed the place for bookworms, especially the College of Physics. There were a few youngsters with obvious receding hairlines engaging in a heated debate as they shook their heads and their hair flew everywhere. This place is brimming with potential. Mag's eyes lit up. It was a pity there was no College of Computer Science here. Otherwise, he would probably just need to shout at the entrance of the college, and the students and teachers there would fill the entire restaurant. Mag already thought of a backup plan. The moment Amy entered the magic classroom, Crassus smilingly said to her, after some discussion with Urian, we have decided that since little Amy wants to go on a break so much, we will give you a long holiday. 5 days before and after Peace Day, so it will be a total of 10 days. Really? Amy's eyes lit up instantly. Of course. When did I ever lie to you? Crassus nodded with a smile. Thank you, Master Crassus. Amy pounced into Crassus's embrace all at once, and then turned back to look at Mag as she happily said, Father, I can go on a holiday too. Amy is going on a holiday too, Mag said with a smile. It seemed like Crassus and Urian were very concerned about what Amy wanted. Although she could not go on a 30-day-long holiday like normal students, a 10-day holiday was good enough. When Mag returned to the restaurant, it was soon the time for breakfast operating hours. The news of Adam sending the signboard over soon spread quickly, and the rumor that Buddha jumps over the wall could cure hair loss was once again proven to be true, which became a topic for discussion. Everyone knew a person or two going through hair loss problems. Since there was such a cure available, it would be highly recommended even if it was a little more expensive. After the morning operating hours, Mag brought the lounge chair out since the weather was quite good. He laid it out and got ready to take a little nap while basking under the sun. "Mr. Mag, I hope I didn't disturb your rest." Suddenly, a gentle voice sounded. Mag opened his eyes and sat up. He looked at Gloria and shook his head with a smile, saying, "It's all right. I just lay down. Do you have anything for me?" "Yes, there is something that I want to hear your opinion on, so I came so abruptly and disturbed you." Gloria nodded. "Then let's sit over there to talk. I'll get a pot of tea." Mag stood up and motioned Gloria to seat over at the side while he turned to walk into the restaurant. "Although I don't really care about being a board member, my grandfather said that if I couldn't hold onto my position with my own capabilities, I would be eliminated from the list of candidates. If I managed to keep my spot, the inheritance that he had divided out for me to run would become mine forever. Tell me, what should I do?" Gloria asked Mag helplessly. "This is a rich family inheritance soap drama," Mag lamented on the inside. Although one could consider him to have been born rich in his previous life, because he was an only child, there had been no drama involving a fight for inheritance. Because it was the Chamber of Commerce, other than Gloria, Mag did not fancy anyone from the Moreton family. He did not think the assertive president or the sore loser Cyril were decent people. He had sworn to overthrow the Chamber of Commerce and teach the people who set all the absurd rules a lesson. Miss Shear could be considered one of his pawns in his grand scheme of things, while Miss Gloria, who was slowly revealing her business capabilities and slowly aiming for the Moreton family inheritance, was his backup. Of course, when he decided to help Gloria back then, he did not expect things to be so complicated. He only took it that he was giving a friend a helping hand. Now that blue suede fashion was growing rapidly, the production line became increasingly perfect because of Mag's suggestion to move towards a more efficient assembly line, and productivity also increased. Now, they had already obtained a vast piece of land in the northern part of the city where they would build their new factory. Gloria had shown great talent and judgment in business operations, and that wowed Mag. However, she was still a little too new when it comes to solving some daily matters. "Judging from your grandfather's change in attitude, I think he might have changed his views on the inheritor. If you can complete this mission, you might be able to vie for the spot with your uncle on a fair and leveled playing ground. However, since he dared to bring this up to your grandfather directly, he must have already garnered enough votes from the board members. Besides, he had been the sole inheritor of the Moreton family for several years, so there should be more people who would think that he will end up as the inheritor of the Moreton family. So, there is not much point in trying to convince the board members now. Your grandfather might be able to influence some of them, and make them judge fairly, but in such a short span of a few days, you won't be able to come up with anything to convince those board members, either," Mag analyzed. "So what should I do?" Gloria asked Mag. That was precisely why she felt like there was nothing she could do and came to him for advice. "You could meet Miss Shear. In the 4 major families of the Chamber of Commerce, other than the Moreton family, the Buffett family might be the most powerful. If she could stand at your side, there might be a different ending to this," Mag said. "Miss Shear?" Gloria was slightly stunned. She shook her head, and said, "Miss Shear and my grandfather are on bad terms because of the presidential election. She would definitely not take my side." "You won't know until you try," Mag said with a smile as he poured a cup of black tea and put it in front of Gloria. Gloria watched Mag's encouraging gaze and fell silent for a while before nodding her head. I will give it a shot. Even if I fail, I still have to give it a try." Gloria left after finishing her cup of tea. Mag enjoyed his tea alone for a while. He did not feel sleepy, so after clearing his tea set, he rode out on his bicycle. He had not received news about the elves for 2 days. "It seems like the situation is a little tough for the night elves. I wonder if things are going smoothly for Firis and the others. Mag, who had changed into his clothes after coming out from the little alley, had his brows tightly knotted. He had spent quite a sum of gold coins on the latest news. The Wind Forest side had already surrounded all the underground caverns of the Night Elves. There had been several attacks launched on the defences of the underground caverns. Although the terrain was to the Night Elves' advantage, the Wind Forest won in manpower and numbers. Now, the final line of defense for the Night Elves depended solely on Irina. Although the goblins lent the underground caverns to the Night Elves, they did not have the intention to be involved in this war, so they had never given any form of help to the Night Elves. Right now, the underground caverns were like an isolated and defenseless island. Everyone was basically sure that this rebellion would be settled very quickly. Even under Irina's lead, the Night Elves were just too weak to even nudge the governance of the Wind Forest. I must find a way to provide more help for Irina, Mag muttered to himself. On his way back, Mag stopped by the blacksmith's shop. As he entered, he could hear the sound of metal molding coming from the back. "What are you doing here, Boss Mag?" Just as Mag walked to the entrance of the forging room, Mabai looked up at him in surprise. "I have been thinking about some things regarding cannons that I wish to talk to you about," Mag said with a smile. Upon hearing that, Mabai's eyes lit up. He put the heavy hammer in his hand down with a chuckle, and said, "Then let's talk outside. I happen to have some questions I need to ask you. I've already made a cannon based on your previous suggestion, but I don't know why the cannonball would often explode inside the barrel, causing it to be damaged. The cannon cannot be fired and no damage is done. Besides, the power of cannonball cannot be increased further in the limited volume. I've done some calculations. A cannonball can only be deadly to third-tier magic beasts," Mabai said with a frown as he opened up a piece of paper. Mag glanced at the paper, and asked, "Where's the barrel?" "It's at the workshop out of town. I was afraid that it would be dangerous to try it out, so I built a workshop in a plain around 5 kilometers away from Chaos City," Mabai answered. "If it's convenient for you, please bring me over in the afternoon. There are many requirements for the barrel in order to make a cannon. As for the reason for the cannonball exploding in the barrier, I will only be able to tell after taking a look. I also have some thoughts about increasing the power of the cannonball, but we can discuss it when we see the cannon later," Mag told Mabai. "All right, then I'll bring you over in the afternoon." Mabai quickly nodded. "I have bought all the land here, so nobody is going to come here. Hence, we can do any experiments we like," Mabai said to Mag with a smile as he stopped the horse-drawn carriage they were in. "This is rather nice. I guess the founding fathers who made the 2 bombs and 1 satellite had to struggle in such a difficult environment in exchange for world peace 2-1. Mag stood on the shaft and observed the surroundings. The plain that was experiencing severe desertification did resemble the Great Northwest. "Come on in." Mabai tethered the horse before unlocking the big lock on the courtyard and walked in. Mag leaped down the carriage and followed him into the courtyard. A strong smell of gunpowder greeted his nose the very moment he entered the courtyard. Iron ore was strewn around, and there were 2 cannons placed in a corner. They already looked like the cannons from the 16th century. "Have a look, Boss Mag, these are the 2 cannons that I made 2 days ago. I have done some adjustments as the barrels were blasted off previously." Mabai led Mag toward the cannons in the corner. Although Mag graduated from mechanical design, he wasn't specialized in the manufacturing of firearms, and had never studied advanced artillery in detail. Hence, he could only give advice from the professional mechanical angle on the 2 cannons' manufacturing process. For example, changing the quenching method to increase the cannon barrel's heat resistance, burnish the interior of the barrel, and thicken the barrel. Furthermore, Mag had made a further improvement on the structure of the cannon from the primitive launch by ignition to impact ignition to fire the cannon. His teacher had used a World War II German cannon as a case study in class then, and he still remembered the structure diagram and parameters. However, whether they could reach the technological level of that standard would all depend on Mabai. Mabai stared at that new blueprint in awe and said, "What an ingenious design. Boss Mag, you are such a genius. I am only standing on the shoulders on the forebears." Mag smiled and shook his head. "Is there anyone else studying firearms too?" Mabai asked Mag curiously. "Currently speaking, only you and me." Mag shook his head. "Boss Mag is actually willing to show me such a complete idea. I really don't know how to thank you." Mabai held that drawing as if it was a treasure. "I can give you the blueprint free of charge, but I want to make a deal with you. You can only accept my orders after you make this cannon successfully, and you cannot pass the manufacturing technology and the blueprint to a third person," Mag said to Mabai seriously. "Boss Mag wants to own cannons too." Mabai gazed at Mag, stunned. "If the peace treaty can't continue, this world will be plunged into chaos again. An ordinary person like me needs some form of self-defense," Mag said with a smile. "I see. Don't worry, Boss Mag. There would definitely be plenty of people protecting you given your culinary skills. Furthermore, you still have Lord Krasu and Lord Urian." Mabai said with a smile. "But, I will agree to all your conditions. No matter how many of them you need in the future, just say it. My target is that evil dragon, and I don't intend to earn money with the cannons." Mag nodded slightly. That was also why he chose to give the artillery technology to Mabai. "Apart from cannons, I also want you to custom make a batch of landmines." Mag continued. An hour later, Mag went back to the restaurant in Mabai's horse-drawn carriage. "You can stop now, Big Orc. Go back early today. We will halt this batch of orders first. From tomorrow onward, you will follow me to the workshop outside of the city first. We need to rush out a new batch of orders," Mabai said to Lulu, who was smashing with his hammer, when he returned to the workshop. "Hee. Okay." Lulu wiped away his sweat and continued to beat the iron into a sword mold before putting down the hammer and left. "Are you telling the truth?" Adam's hair regrew because he ate a bowl of Buddha jumps over the wall from that restaurant. Adams even specially went to give him a signboard today. Charney asked a middle-aged man in a shock in the Gould manner. "Yes. I saw with my own eyes that young Master Adams delivered that signboard to that Mamie restaurant's boss Mag personally today. It wrote Master of Hair Growth." That middle-aged man quickly nodded before saying in a deep voice, "Moreover, I heard a piece of information that Buddha jumps over the wall not only helps hair to grow, it also has the effect of improving the power of the knights." A knight had advanced to the second tier immediately after he drank a bowl of Buddha jumps over the wall. "You are saying that Adams could advance to fourth tier overnight because he drank that Buddha jumps over the wall?" Charney raised his voice, feeling a little ridiculous. "How would there be a soup like this in this world? It would have been a miracle drug, right? Looks like you have never heard of Mamie Restaurant. It is a rather legendary restaurant. The delicacies that Boss Mag made are not only tasty, most of them have certain unusual effects. For example, the tofu pudding that women in Chaos City have already acknowledged as the holy item for enhancing their beauty. Eating it frequently would not only moisturize the skin and remove the wrinkles, but also remove scars and spots that even the magic casters couldn't remove. The effect of the Buddha jumps over the wall has already been verified by a few customers who have eaten it, so I think it is true," the middle-aged man said smilingly, and he was very confident when he talked about Boss Mag Mamie Restaurant. "I didn't know that there is such a marvelous restaurant." Charney pondered. Yesterday's events had made him lose face. However, since they had already set up the 10-year agreement, he also wasn't too upset, nor regretted giving Adams another 10 years. He didn't want Adams to hate him for the rest of his life. The Moreton family was a good example. He could afford to wait for 10 years. However, he was indeed very curious how Adams managed to make his hair grow again. But, yesterday's situation was rather awkward, and he couldn't humble himself to ask Adams. Hence, this gentleman had provided him with very valuable information. Hair growth was never too late for any age group. Charney shook the middle-aged man's hand. Thank you for providing me with a very important piece of information. I remember you talked to my secretary about a collaboration, right? You can tell me about your plans again. Okay. Everyone can go back earlier today. Kreese had hurried the store assistants home even before it was 5 o'clock. What's wrong with the miser today? Why is he letting us go off so early? The store assistants mumbled as they stared at Kreese, who had rushed away. A dull thud resounded. A red line slowly rose up, and stopped at the position of second tier. Did you guys see that? I ate a helping of Buddha jumps over the wall the day before yesterday, and then I advanced. See, I am now a true second-tier knight, that young knight said excitedly. Damn! You really advanced? Impossible! How did you manage to advance? You are the loser as deemed by the captain. Is this broken thing malfunctioning? All the mercenaries were stunned as they stared at the red line in disbelief. Someone even began to check the machine. It's true. I haven't told anyone yet. The young knight looked very sure of himself. Then, he said to the scarred knight standing at the side, Boss, can you bring me along for the next mission? I have already been sweeping the floors for 3 months. Whenever you are stabilized in your tier, you can follow us on the mission. The scarred knight glanced at the red line before he left. Yet. The young knight clenched his fists excitedly. He had finally made it. Boss, where are we going for dinner tonight? The mercenaries asked as they caught up with him. Mamie Restaurant, the scarred knight said calmly, but a blazing flame began to light up in his eyes. Are we going to eat that Buddha jumps over the wall too? Is it true that we can advance after we eat it? The eyes of all mercenaries lit up when they heard it, and they began to ask the young knight about Buddha jumps over the wall. The news of the amazing effect of Buddha jumps over the wall quickly began to spread within the balding community and the knight community. It still attracted many people to check it out curiously. Oh my heavens! Boss Mag's business is so good that it's unbelievable. Kreese thought he would be early. He gulped when he saw the line with over 200 people at the entrance. He took a quick glance, and there were many people wearing the city lords' castles and Grey Temple's uniforms. Kreese didn't have to give it much thought before he went to join the end of the line. For hair growth, lining up was nothing. A luxurious horse-drawn carriage stopped at the restaurant's entrance. The driver opened the door, and Charney came out. He was shocked to see the long line too. He asked in astonishment, why are there so many people? You have no idea. Mamie Restaurant is the most popular restaurant in Chaos City now. Hundreds of people come to have their meals here every day. The business is always this brisk. The middle-aged man who told him the news followed him out of the carriage. He laughingly said, My lord, we have come a little too late. Let's go and line up at the back. Line up. Charney furrowed his brows and shook his head. I never wait for others. How much money do we need to pay to enter? Pay and we will get in, or at least stand at the very front. Ayo. That would not do. The middle-aged man tugged onto Charney's sleeves, and nervously said, The rules of this restaurant clearly state that we have to line up to go in. We will be blacklisted if we jump the line, and paying money wouldn't get us in early. Charney frowned with displeasure as he said, This restaurant has so many rules? Does it have a very strong backer? Even I can't cut the line. The middle-aged man whispered, See those 2 people at the very front of the line? The one on the left with white beard is the Lord of Fire, Krasu. The one on the right is Lord of Ice, Urian. The person who is behind them is the Deputy Lord of the Grey Temple. The one who is standing at the center left is the City Lord's daughter, and the City Lord's wife is behind her. Further down all right. Let's go and line up at the back, Charney interrupted him with a complex expression. He alighted from the horse-drawn carriage and walked toward the very end of the line. He saw many familiar faces in the line. Their status and power were all superior to his. He really couldn't afford to cut the line. What kind of otherworldly restaurant was this? Even the lady of the city who seldom ventured out of the castle was in the line. Moreover, this boss was a formidable person. He simply kept his doors closed, and let all these big shots stand in line and wait. As long as one lived on the Norland continent, they would definitely have heard the rumors about the two legendary great magic casters. Boss Mag's daughter is the disciple of Lord Krasua and Lord Urian, the middle-aged man added. They are indeed two giant backers, Charney lamented. With the two legends around, nobody would dare to come and seek trouble. Ding! Yabimiya opened the door and came out. She hung a sign on the door before she went back in and closed the door. Hair Care Day promotion, today, the restaurant will reserve 25 helpings of Buddha jumps over the wall for paying customers who have hair loss problems. Please show the service staff your hair loss symptoms when placing your orders. The customer standing at the very front read it out loudly. Hair Care Day? What festival is this? Why have I never heard of it before? Boss Mag is so kind. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to have it today. Isn't this a little unfair to people like us who don't have hair loss problems? Seems like this Buddha jumps over the wall really can make hair regrow again. This is simply fantastic. The customers started to discuss among themselves after they heard that. Those customers, who came for Buddha jumps over the wall because of hair loss problems, were ecstatic. They had been worried that they wouldn't be able to eat it. Looks like this Buddha jumps over the wall is indeed very popular. Charney began to feel nervous. He stretched out his neck to look ahead, counting the number of bald heads in front of him. Father, what are you doing here? Right at this moment, a voice spoke up from the side. Charney was surprised as he turned, and saw Adams, who was suddenly standing next to him. He smiled awkwardly, but swiftly pointed at the middle-aged businessman. We came here to discuss our business. We heard that this restaurant is good, so we came to try it out. What are you doing here, Adams? I always come to this restaurant for my meals. I am also eating my dinner here tonight, Adams said with a smile. Smiling, Charney said, in this case, have your meal with us. We have not eaten together for a long time as father and son. Won't I be disturbing your business discussion? Adams was a little hesitant. It's fine, young Master Adams. We are already done. It will be my honor to have dinner with you, that middle-aged man chimed in with a smile. All right, then I will line up behind you. Adams nodded and stood behind them. Mag opened the restaurant's door at 5 o'clock sharp, and smilingly said, Welcome to Mamie Restaurant. The customers filed in orderly. He began to smile as he looked at the information about the customers plagued by different levels of hair loss that kept scrolling upwards in the omniscient door. He glanced at the system learning in progress, in his mind again, and smiled even brighter. Chapter 1158 Host, you are so naughty. Miss Mia, look at my hairline. It has already receded back for half a finger joint. Miss Mia, his condition is not a big deal. See, the top of my head has no hair at all. Miss Mia, look at my bald head. Isn't it big and round? The customers began to prove that they were having hair loss problems with all they had. Yabimiya was shocked by them. Some of them might look normal, but in fact half of their hair was fake. The 25 bowls of Buddha jumps over the wall that were reserved for people with hair loss problems were all taken very soon. Mag had made 2 urns of Buddha jumps over the wall today, so the rest would be first come, first serve. A bulky knight with a big beard sat down, and said to Mia, I heard that you guys have a kind of soup that could increase a person's power after drinking it. Does it really exist? Give me 8 to 10 bowls of it first. Yabimiya flipped the menu open and placed it in front of the knight with a smile as she said, Our restaurant only has 1 soup, Buddha jumps over the wall, but I am not sure if your power will increase after drinking it. Here is the menu, dear customer. You can have a look first. Everyone is only allowed to order one bowl of Buddha jumps over the wall. If you want it, I can order it for you. Only one bowl. Lev frowned as his gaze landed on the menu. Buddha jumps over the wall 10,000 copper coins for a helping. Lev blinked again to make sure he didn't count some zeros extra. He raised his head to ask Mia, did you guys make a mistake in the menu? There is no mistake in the menu. Mia shook her head. This, Lev felt around in his pockets, and an awkward expression appeared on his face. He hesitantly asked, can I buy half a helping? Mia shook her head. I'm sorry. This restaurant doesn't sell half a helping. Lev looked even more embarrassed. He only had 5,000 copper coins in all of his pockets. Who in their right mind would bring so much money out for a meal? Moreover, he had just come back from a mercenary mission, and heard about this incident at the Mercenaries' Guild. He was stuck at the 5th tier for 4 years with no hope of further advancement. Thus, he wanted to try it immediately. Lev removed his sword after he pondered and said to Mia, Then, do you guys accept credit? I will leave my sword here, and I will come back for it tomorrow. I am sorry. Mamie restaurant only accepts cash as payment. We don't accept credit or impounding. Mia shook her head and smiled. You can look at the other dishes on the menu. They, too, are very delicious. Lev would have flared up if he had been at some other restaurant that rejected all his requests, but this lady server was smiling during the entire interaction, and her demeanor was very polite, so he wasn't angry at all. Instead, he was embarrassed that he didn't bring enough money and caused trouble for her. He retrieved his gaze away from the Buddha jumps over the wall unwillingly, and then looked at the other dishes. He ordered a helping of red braised pork and 1 small grilled fish. Miss Mia, we'd like to have 6 helpings of Buddha jumps over the wall here. The young knight who had been boasting to his friends at the guild's entrance earlier waved and placed an order with a smile. My heavens! This Buddha jumps over the wall costs 10,000 copper coins for a helping. A team member flipped the menu open, and his eyes almost popped out when he saw the price. The other mercenaries looked over when they heard him. They all looked shocked when they saw the price. Their mercenary unit was only a small contingent, so they normally would only accept missions that were not too difficult or dangerous. Therefore, accordingly, their pay wasn't high. Furthermore, they liked to drink alcohol and gamble at the gambling dens. Hence, they wouldn't have so much money to buy a bowl of soup, even though that soup could increase their power. The leader of the mercenaries also looked hesitant after he glanced at the menu. Haha! To celebrate my advancement today, I am giving you all a treat. Order whatever you like. Everything in this restaurant is very scrumptious, the young knight said smilingly. Bowl after bowl of Buddha jumps over the wall was carried out and sent to the customers. The restaurant was filled with that amazing aroma. My hair! Is it growing out? Mamma mia! I have hair! I have advanced! There were frequent exclamations from customers with hair loss and nights in the restaurant. Even though the restaurant forbade noises, most of the customers were willing to overlook it as they were happy events. Some customers even congratulated them. Another one advanced. This Buddha jumps over the wall really can advance a knight's power. Lev extended his neck to look around, even the red braised pork in front of him couldn't hold his attention. He was surprised yet worried. Can you reserve a bowl of Buddha jumps over the wall for me, please? I am going back to get money. I'll be back soon. Lev waved Mia over and pleaded with her. I am sorry, dear customer. Buddha jumps over the wall is sold out for today. If you want to have it, please come earlier tomorrow evening, Mia said with a smile. It's sold out. Lev glared. This was a 10,000 copper coins per helping dish, and it was sold out so quickly? How rich were these people? Yes. Please continue to enjoy your meal. Mia nodded, and then walked to the next customer. Adams, take a look for me. Is hair growing out? Just a little. Charney poked his head over to Adams excitedly. Yes, your hair has grown out a little, Adams replied smilingly with a nod as he looked at the fine hair growing out of Charney's bald head. Fantastic! I finally have hair again. Charney clenched his fists agitatedly with an elated expression. He hugged Adams and clapped his back, and then stood up to hug that businessman who came with him with a bright smile. Adams stared at Charney with surprise. This was the first time that he had seen him so happy. His father, who had always gone around with his bald head, actually had wanted to have hair too. It looked like he had failed as a son. He should have communicated with his father more often. Helping people with hair loss. Mission progress, 29/30. 30/30. Mag smiled as he looked at the progress bar that was completed. With system, this stumbling block, this mission was completed easily. Ding! Systems learning is completed. 1024T resources were successfully downloaded. Host, you are so naughty. The system's voice suddenly appeared at this time. Anyway, I have already completed it. Quick, give me my reward, Mag said calmly, with neither a blush nor a racing heart. Check is completed. The system runs without errors. The host has completed the hidden mission successfully and helped 30 people with hair loss problems regain their confidence. Mission reward, the recipe of steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. The system's voice sounded. Mag looked at the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers experience bag that appeared in his head with brightly lit eyes. Steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers was the classic method to cook a fish's head, and he rather liked it too. He only wondered what kind of steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers would the recipe given by the system taste like. The Buffett Manor. In an elegant tea room, Gloria and Sheer sat facing each other with a pot of piping hot tea in between them. Gloria apologetically said, "Miss Sheer, thanks for making the time to see me. It's inappropriate that I didn't make an appointment in advance." She looked at Sheer, a woman who was the same age as her. She had a presence that didn't match her age. She had seen this presence with her grandfather before, but Sheer was not even 20, and she already possessed the presence of a person in power. Maybe she was a so-called born leader? "There isn't anything on my schedule tonight, and I am definitely willing to have a cup of tea with Miss Gloria. After all, there is no one willing to have a cup of tea calmly with me in this huge manor." Sheer picked up the cup and had a sip with a self-deprecating smile. A hint of surprise appeared in Gloria's eyes. This peer of hers who was already in the Chaos City's power circle at such a young age wasn't as satisfied as others believed her to be. "I heard Cyril plans to kick you out of the board at the Chamber of Commerce's year-end gala. You came because of that, right?" Sheer asked Gloria. Gloria didn't expect Sheer to guess her motive immediately and be the one to bring it up, but she wasn't too shocked. She nodded. "Yes, I came to see Miss Sheer because of this. I hope Miss Sheer could help me." "Why do you think I would help you?" Sheer's slender fingers caressed the cup as she smiled at Gloria mysteriously. Gloria put down her cup and said to Sheer, "Compared to Cyril, I guess Miss Sheer would rather have me as your opponent." Sheer was slightly taken aback. A gleam appeared in her eyes, and she began to look at Gloria with an interested gaze. She stared at Gloria for a while before she nodded with a smile. "I do indeed have this thought now. That chap, Cyril, was never on my list of worthy opponents. But now, I can consider adding you to that list." Gloria's eyes lit up. Was Sheer really willing to help her? "Since we are both business people, let's make a deal," Sheer continued. "What's the condition?" A hint of wariness rose up in Gloria's heart. Although she had no choice but to ask Sheer for help, she was also aware of the competitive relationship between the Moritons and the Buffetts in the Chamber of Commerce. If Sheer had gained a handle on her because of this incident, or the Buffetts needed to sacrifice their interests, she'd rather be kicked out of the board than agree. I will ask the Buffett's board members to vote against it. Of course, I cannot guarantee the outcome. Shear's mouth curled slightly. The condition is, from today onward, I will have the right to pre-order a set of clothes that Blue Suede releases in advance. And, as long as I have ordered that set, there will not be a second piece in the same color family. Of course, I will pay you according to the price of haute couture. Gloria was a little stunned as she asked with uncertainty, "That's it?" She had not expected that Shear would ask for something like that. It didn't concern the Moreton family, nor did it need her to go against her conscience. She simply wanted a set of Blue Suede's new items in her exclusive color. Even though making the red color family into a single haute couture item equaled giving up a very popular color, it wasn't a condition that was difficult to accept. Yes, I don't like to wear the exact clothes as others, even though it would be the other party who would be embarrassed. Shear nodded naturally. I accept this condition. Gloria smiled. From today on, Blue Suede's new items will be sent to Miss Shear to have the first pick. Whatever color you choose, there will be only one such item in that color. You're indeed much more interesting than Cyril. Shear gestured with the teacup before taking a sip. Miss Shear is also much more interesting than what I have heard, Gloria said with a smile after taking a sip. Oh? I am rather curious what the others said about me, Shear asked rather curiously. In a study of the Moreton manner, Master, young Master Cyril has been rather close with Bowen from the Marquis family recently. Also, the Marquis board members have also been notified to vote Miss Gloria out at the year-end celebration, Mars said respectfully to Geoffrey who was sitting behind the desk. So it's this wily old fox Bowen who is behind all this, or else Cyril wouldn't have been this arrogant. Does this fellow think I am rather old? Geoffrey smirked. He raised his eyes and said to Mars, I will ask the Moretons board members to remain neutral in this incident. You will assist Gloria with all you have. If she can keep her board member's seat, I will then assign you a new task. Mars shook his head. Master, it will be enough for me to stay with young mistress. I don't need any other positions to assist her with all my heart. She is a very clever child, and I believe she will resolve this perfectly. You may go now. Geoffrey waved, and Mars bade his farewell. Looking at his retreating back, Geoffrey pondered. Did Mars favor Gloria since the very beginning? At the north of the Goblins' Vic Mountain, near the Wind Forest, there was an arduous mountain range. In the midst of these mountains, there were plenty of gold mines and gemstone mines. The hard-working goblins dug numerous mines within the mountains to remove the gold and gemstones, and they left behind numerous deserted caverns. Now, within those mountains, there was one mountain near the Wind Forest at whose foot numerous elves gathered. The fire torches surrounded the entire mountain, resembling a long dragon. In the middle of that mountain, there was a cave entrance. A figure in white stood there alone and looked downward. An elf came and anxiously reported, Your Highness, we have been surrounded for 6 days with no reinforcements in sight. Our food has already run out yesterday. We have to find a chance to break through and leave this cave to search for food, or else we cannot hold on for much longer. These fellows chose to only surround us, and not attack. They don't dare to enter the underground cavern, so they most probably already knew we have a food shortage. If we try to break out now, a huge battle will ensue. We are most likely not their match given our current potential, but if we continue to drag on without food and help, we will collapse in a few days on our own. That elf looked at Irina worriedly, and said, Princess, what should we do? The underground cavern is our last line of defense. We cannot give it up. Irina shook her head. She gazed into the distance, and said in a cold voice, I will solve the food problem. Tell them not to worry. As long as I am still here, the underground cavern will not fall. That elf looked at Irina, and hesitantly said, Princess, they don't dare to invade us now, because you are here. Once you leave to search for food, they are going to launch a huge assault and take down the underground cavern. Irina pursed her lips, and a hint of vexation flashed across her eyes. Bork and Helena, those two conniving fellows. They wanted to preserve their strength and avoid a direct conflict with her, and thus they resorted to such an underhanded method. To their north was the wind forest controlled by the enemies, to their south was the Vic mountain of the goblins, who had stopped them from going in further. How were they going to find food for 1,000 elves in these barren lands? Right at this moment, sounds of explosions came from the bottom of the mountain, followed by chaotic shouts. This is... Irina looked down in a perplexement. A huge fire suddenly broke out in the forest to the northwest. Giant fireballs kept exploding within the forest, and made the fire burn even fiercer. The fire torches that were surrounding the underground cavern swiftly dashed toward the huge fire, and gaps soon appeared. Could there be people coming to join us and having a fight with them? The elf at the side approached, also wondering what was going on. Tell them to guard the cavern. Do not attack without my orders. I'm going to have a look now, Irina ordered as a green beam lit up under her feet, and she disappeared. Keel looked toward the huge fire, and said in a hushed voice, "Boss attracted their attention and disarmed those elves. We can drive the wagons through quickly now. Remember, we have to be fast and quiet." The Burning Legion nodded in silence and grasped their reins tightly. Pyrrhus hugged the two books in her arms tightly as she stared at that pitch-black mountain with trepidation. She was going to see the princess again. Keel and Mond looked at each other before proceeding ahead in silence. They struck down a few elves with their clubs, and then dragged the unconscious elves into the woods and dumped them there. "Let's go." Keel waved to the caravan, and the unicorn wagons filled with food swiftly passed along the uneven roads carved out by the goblins when they were mining. They quickly drove toward the underground cavern under the dark sky. "It's a demon?" Irina stood on the top of a tree and observed a dark shadow rushed out of the woods and ran toward the opposite direction. It was a lava demon and he was running toward the cavern. "What does this fellow want?" Doubt appeared on Irina's face. There was still deep-set enmity between the elves and demons. However, lava demons weren't part of the group that had invaded Wind Forest years ago, so the hatred she had for them was much weaker. The beam underneath her feet lit up, and she stood in front of that demon when she reappeared. She extended her magic caster's staff and coldly asked, "What are you doing here, sneaking around like this?" SAHDR, who was in the midst of a dash, halted. Flame slowly rose up in his palms. His eyes lit up when his gaze landed on Irina, and the flames were put out. He immediately smiled, and said, "You must be Princess Irina?" "I am SAHDR. Boss Mag hired us to send Miss Pyrrhus and the foodstuffs here. I set the fire to attract those elves' attention when I discovered that they had surrounded the mountain. My brothers should have passed through the blockade with the food and Miss Pyrrhus now." "Boss Mag," Irina repeated softly. Then, her eyes lit up and her voice rose up too. "You are saying Mag asked you to send Pyrrhus and the foodstuffs here?" "Yes. Everything you see here. You can verify it once you meet Miss Pyrrhus later." SAHDR nodded. He looked behind him, and continued, "Those elves are going to seal up the mountain very soon, and the elves in the cavern don't know that help is here to deliver their food. A misunderstanding may occur. Princess, I urge you to go back to have a look first." Irina gazed at SAHDR, who was an 8th-tier demon. He couldn't pose a threat to her, and with Pyrrhus around, she would know instantly if there was trouble. 2 teleportation portals lit up underneath their feet, and they both disappeared with a flash. On the other end, Keel and Mond led the caravan up on the road, and they soon reached a cavern's entrance. They couldn't see anything in the pitch-dark cavern. "The roads up there are all damaged, so we can only enter from here," Mond said softly. Keel looked into the cave and scratched his head as he said, "It's pitch dark and we don't know what is in there. The night elves should have laid down many traps. What should we do?" He didn't dare to act rashly. Whoosh! Right at this time, an arrow shot out from the cave, flew by Keel's head, and lodged itself into the wagon. Its tail was still trembling. Sounds of arrows being knocked could be heard in the cave. There seemed to be dozens of arrows aiming at them in the dark. Damn! Keel touched his head and shivered. If he had been a few inches taller, he would have been hit. He turned and shouted at Ferris, "Miss Ferris, aren't we on the same side? Quick, identify yourself and tell them to stop shooting." They almost hit the friendlies. Ferris quickly shouted, "I am fire release," an indifferent voice said in the tunnel, and sounds of arrows flying through the air appeared at the same time. Damn! Keel and Mon said together, and then jumped to the side. Marxa grabbed Ferris, who was standing on the shaft, and jumped to the side. Halt! Right at this moment, someone shouted, and a green light shield appeared at the entrance. Dozens of arrows landed on the light shield, but none could pass through. A green teleportation portal appeared and Irina walked out as she addressed the cavern, "Stop, we are all on the same side." Princess! Ferris, whose feet just touched the ground, dashed over with reddened eyes. Chapter 1161 Guidelines for Encircling Cities with Villages. Bean Sprout. Irina, too, looked at Ferris with elation in her eyes. However, she soon felt annoyed. Why did that chap send Ferris here? The situation of the Night Elves wasn't good. Ferris didn't know any magic, and wouldn't be able to protect herself in battle. They still haven't grown much. Irina's gaze landed on Ferris' bosom, hovering for a brief moment before she sighed. The same familiar tone of voice and the attack on her soul, but Ferris smiled happily. As long as she could stay with the princess, she would be happy to listen to all her insults every day. SAHDR also stepped out from the teleportation portal. He looked at the arrow nailed onto the wagon, and asked Keel and the gang, "Are you guys all right?" "Boss, we are okay. We just got almost hit." Keel shook his head and then touched his scalp. The tunnel was lit, and dozens of elves with bows and arrows walked out. When the elf who was leading them saw SAHDR and the gang, she exclaimed, "It's you guys. Hey? Isn't this Miss Shirley? What are you doing here?" SAHDR and the gang stared at Shirley in a shock. Shirley had tied her hair up into a ponytail. The clothes on her had a few holes, but they still looked very clean. "We have heard that Miss Shirley left the restaurant, but we didn't expect you to be here. Boss Mag got us to send foodstuffs for the Night Elves," SAHDR said with an embarrassed smile. "Boss," Shirley was a little taken aback. She looked at the wagons filled with gurney sacks, and felt a warmth in her heart. She hadn't expected that he would send her so much food. "Shirley." Ferris greeted Shirley, feeling rather excited too. After all, they had worked together for some time, and now they had reunited here again. "Ferris." Shirley nodded slightly too. It was difficult to see an old friend here. "Food." The elves' eyes lit up, and they were ecstatic when they saw the fully loaded wagons. They had already been drinking porridge for a period of time, and food had run out completely yesterday. They could only drink water to suppress their hunger. Now, they didn't have to go hungry anymore, since they had received so much food, and they could continue to defend the underground cavern. "So, you all knew one another?" Irina looked at them in surprise, and her gaze paused when it landed on Shirley. This beautiful elf who hailed from Chaos City had a 7th-tier power. The Night Elf's potential was rather strong now, so she was only assigned to be the leader of a garrison. She didn't expect that she had been a service staff member at Mag's restaurant. "She is a very beautiful elf, only second to me." Irina's eyes narrowed. Mag had concealed his identity, so how did he manage to get such a powerful and beautiful elf to work at the restaurant as a service staff member willingly? "Yes. Shirley and I have worked together in a restaurant in Chaos City." Ferris nodded and looked at SAHDR and the gang before continuing, "Mr. SAHDR and his people were entrusted by Mr. Mag to send me and food here. He is the restaurant's regular customer." After getting Firis verification, Irina said to SAHDR, "Thank you very much. We are short on food right now. Don't stand on ceremony, Your Highness. Boss Mag has already paid us, so this is our duty." SAHDR smiled shyly. He looked at that wide passageway, and said, "We can help you move the food in. It's all right. We can move it by ourselves. You guys can detach the unicorns and leave before they come back. If the advanced elves are alarmed, you will have a hard time leaving," Irina said as she looked at the fire torches that were slowly surrounding the mountain again. "That's fine with us too." SAHDR nodded. Then, he said to Firis, "Take care, Miss Firis. Thank you all very much." Firis bowed to them, full of gratitude. The way they took care of her along their journey had subverted her impression of demons. The Burning Legion detached the unicorns, and the elves took over wagons. They dashed down the slopes in the dark, and quickly disappeared into the night. Irina retrieved her gaze, and calmly ordered, "Take all these wagons back. Don't leave a trace." Wagons and wagons were soon dragged into the caverns. "Princess, we have taken stock of all the food. If we ration it properly, it will last us for 2 months, the chief of guard reported, barely able to hide his smile. "All right, we have solved the problem of supplies. Guard this information, and continue to fortify the defense underground cavern." Irina nodded, her expression was more relaxed too. How did he know what I am lacking now? That fellow. Even though he didn't say it, he does a great job. Irina's lips curled as she looked at those supplies. Her smile got increasingly brighter. "Princess, our boss asked me to pass this to you." Firis took a booklet wrapped with craft paper and passed it to Irina. "Passed to me?" Irina's eyes lit up as a hint of confusion appeared on her face. Had Mag told Firis about their relationship? "Yes. He said this is a war manual and let me pass it to you. It might be helpful." Firis nodded with a smile, adding, "Boss is really a nice person." War manual. Irina took over that booklet and flipped it open. She read out the first page. The first half, guidelines for encircling cities with villages. What strange thing is this? Irina frowned and flipped to the middle again. Her brows furrowed even tighter. 36 Stratagems of Sun Tzu's Art of War. Boss is just being kind. Maybe it is not really useful, Firis murmured. Although she didn't know much about war manuals, it didn't sound very reliable. I will go and study it." Irina nodded and left with the booklet. Firis looked around her before her gaze landed Shirley, who was about to lead a group of elves to continue on their patrol. She quickly said, "Wait a min, Shirley." Shirley halted and looked at Firis, who ran to her. Firis took out a rabbit that was weaved with yarn and passed to her. Smiling, she said, "Anna wanted me to pass this to you. She said she would be waiting for you to return." Chapter 1162 Let's Fight, Fathead Fish. "Thank you," Shirley said to Firis with gratitude and took the rabbit before leading the elves away. She turned around and a smile appeared on her lips. It felt so good to have someone who would miss her. Late in the night. If I estimated according to the distance, the Burning Legion should have already sent Firis to the underground cavern. I wonder if Irina received that war manual? Was she inspired? Mag stood on the balcony and stared to the northeast with worry on his face. His power had just recovered to the 8th tier. He wouldn't be a great boost to Irina when facing the entire elven tribe. Instead, he would have brought even more enemies to the Night Elves. What he could do to help the Night Elves was support them with the resources they needed to tide over the most difficult initial period. As the members of the restaurant increased steadily, and with the promise of the merfolk, he would be able to give Irina powerful assistance at a critical time. But he could only use the chance once, so he got to find the most optimal opportunity. What is the most important now is to regain my power. Only my own strength is dependable, Mag mumbled to himself as he took out his sword to practice. 2 hours later, a very sweaty Mag went downstairs for a bath. He lay on his bed after changing into a set of clean pajamas. He clicked open the golden steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers experience bag in his brain. An enormous amount of information flooded him. It took Mag some time to digest and rearrange it into something he could use. Then, he pushed open the door to the test field for the god of cookery. "Let's fight, fathead fish," an elated voice said the very moment Mag stepped into the test field for the god of cookery. A golden Chinese cleaver suddenly appeared in Mag's hands. Mag was stunned. A giant fathead fish suddenly flew toward him with a wide-open mouth from a corner. "What the heck is this?" Mag lifted his hand and gave it a slash. That fathead fish was cut into halves and landed on the floor. That fathead fish's head was 2 times bigger than the head of a normal fish, and its body was also rounder. The ratio of its body to his head was 1:1. Basically, the fish only had 2 body parts. A fish that only had a fat head. And right at this moment, a figure 1/10,000 appeared at the upper left corner in the Mag's mind. Before Mag had a chance to ponder, 2 fathead fish flew toward him from his left and right. "Hey! System, what are you doing?" Mag asked with furrowed eyebrows as he slashed the 2 fathead fishes with his cleaver. This is a small opening game based on the host's past comments on the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. Let's fight, fathead fish. The host has to fight increasing numbers of fathead fish. Once you are bitten by the fish, the count will start again. Moreover, you have to slash the fathead fish open in the middle of the head before it can be considered an effective kill. The first level, 10,000 fish. Go for it, host. The system's laughing voice sounded. Mag looked at the fathead fishes which had multiplied into 4, and slashed them into halves. Now that he thought back, he had complained offhandedly when eating steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers in Changsha because the chef's cutting skills were rather bad. The 2 halves of the head were cut unevenly. He said, "Let that chef go and hack 10,000 fathead fishes before he sells them again." He'd never thought it would come true. He indeed had to pay for his sins eventually. Mag was hacking those fathead fishes like a whirlwind. He spinned around among the fishes as he hacked and slashed. A fish died with every strike. This isn't too difficult. Mag used his 8th tier knight's body and reflexes to avoid those rotund fathead fishes easily. It was almost like going through a thick forest without a single leaf touching his body. Ayo! Mag suddenly felt a pain in his butt. He turned and saw a fathead fish latched onto his butt firmly. It was even rolling its eyes at him. Challenge failed. Back to 0. A cold voice sounded. No. Mag stared as the numbers that were in the 9,000s returned to 0 in an instant. He couldn't help but moan. Then, he used his knife to smack that hateful fathead fish away. A fathead fish flew out from the corner. Challenge failed. Challenge failed. Challenge failed. Although he was failing constantly, the numbers were increasing steadily, and Mag had evolved from his initial avoidance to a cold-blooded fathead fish killer. 300 fathead fishes appeared at the same time. Slash, slash. With 2 strokes of the cleaver, 300 fathead fishes were cut in 2 at the same time, and landed on the ground. Every one of them was perfectly cut into equal halves. Congratulations, host! You have passed successfully. This time, the system's voice sounded. Mag flicked his hand, and the golden cleaver flew out and nailed a fathead fish at the corner into the ground. The system's voice became noisy instantly. It only recovered after a while. Now, you can begin to practice how to make the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. It's just steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. How difficult can it be? An expert smile appeared on Mag's face as he picked a red chili pepper and gave it a small sniff. His face turned red instantaneously, and he sneezed hard for a few times. Damn, this chili is a little too hot. Mag raised his brows. This spiciness came too sudden. Diced hot red peppers was the crux of the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers dish. Making a successful chili marinade was the focus of making a scrumptious steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. Hence, Mag's journey of making the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers started with marinating the chili. The red-hot chili peppers together with ginger, spring onions, and garlic were placed on top of the white fish head, and then put into the steamer. When the time was up, the fish head would be taken out and soy sauce drizzled over it. Then, hot oil was poured over it, and a helping of steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers that tasted, smelled, and looked good was done. It looked rather simple at first. However, when each and every single step was elevated to perfection, things were no longer simple. Fail. 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 Early in the next morning, Mag opened his eyes, and the way the fathead fish rolled its eyes at him still lingered in his mind. Phew! Mag heaved a sigh of relief and glanced at the alarm clock next to his bed. It was 6 o'clock. Today was his rest day, and the restaurant wasn't open for business, but he still had to get up early to make breakfast for the cleaners because they didn't have any days off. Mag got out of the bed quietly. After washing up, he went to the kitchen downstairs. He went to take a look at the fish tank and a fathead fish was swimming past and rolling its eyes at him. "I am going to get you." Mag grabbed that fathead fish, grasped the Chinese cleaver from the knife rack, and hacked that fish right on its head. Ding! The cleaver snapped into two. The fathead fish that only had a little broken skin rolled its eyes smugly. "Don't humiliate me with money. They only have to move to live in another place. Why did they have to do that?" Mag pursed his lips. He peered at the broken cleaver in his hand, and said, "Where's that cleaver from last night? Seems like this golden-rimmed cleaver had outlived its usefulness. That cleaver from last night was quite good to use, just give me one of that." Ding! Breaking the cleaver has triggered a hidden mission. One has to have his own personal best of the best cleaver in order to be the god of cookery. Could the host please proceed to the Eason Castle and find the best knifesmith and custom make a personal knife of the god of cookery? The system's voice sounded. "You are actually trying to do that?" Mag cocked an eyebrow before he shook his head decisively. "I reject this mission, system. I am a chef and this is already year 9012, who would deliberately go to the dwarves to custom make their cleavers now? As a professional assistant, do you need to make your daddy make a trip personally when money can easily be used to solve this problem? Spit it out, how much does the cleaver from last night cost?" The cleaver that daddy used was called Crushing the Foes. It was a cleaver that this system had specially designed for the host. It used the highest grade titanium alloy. The system's boot-licking voice suddenly faltered. After clearing its throat, it seriously continued, "Host, please respect this system. Don't humiliate me with money. I am an upright and principled system. For this mission, you have to double," Mag said calmly. "Personally triple," Mag continued calmly. "Go quadruple. Go, 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 fine, if you are not selling, I am not going to make this fish." Mag flicked his hand nonchalantly, and that fathead fish went back into the tank in a perfect parabola. "Wait a sec." The system raised its voice, and then continued with much difficulty, "Host, you have to complete this mission. The time limit is 3 days. If the mission fails, the host will lose all his rights to use the knives in the kitchen as he would be deemed looking down on the knives. If the mission is successful, the host will gain a chance to return to his peak power briefly." Mag, who was about to walk away, halted, and asked with uncertainty in his heart, "System, do you mean it would be similar to the previous time where my power returns to 10th tier straight away?" "Yes. It'll return to the peak condition that this body was once at for 10 minutes, the system confirmed." Mag's eyes lit up before he piteously said, 10 minutes is a little too short, right? If the enemies talk too much, I will faint even before we start fighting. You know, some villains really talk a lot." Why don't we make it slightly longer? You cannot blame the villains for talking too much. Otherwise, all the superheroes' stories would have been tragedies, the system murmured before saying, however, what the host said makes sense. Hence, this system will adjust to this condition accordingly, and add another 5 minutes. 15 minutes. After some pondering, Mag nodded in agreement. All right, I accept this mission. Looking at the 3 days countdown that appeared in his head, Mag began to make congee with pork and century egg. Anna came down when the congee was almost ready. She went into the kitchen, and said, Uncle Mag, let me help you. Anna, don't wake up so early in the future. Sleep more as you are still growing, Mag said to Anna with a smile. It's all right. I have slept enough. Uncle Mag wakes up even earlier than me. Anna shook her head as she pulled open the bowls drawer and took out a pile of big bowls carefully. Then, she walked out of the kitchen. Mag looked at Anna's little back. This little one was perfect, apart from being too sensible. She was so sensible that his heart ached for her. Mag opened the door at 6:30 a.m. sharp, and carried the big pot out. Then, with Anna's help, he distributed the congee with pork and century egg to the cleaners. When they were almost done eating, Mag loudly announced, I have something to tell you folks. I need to go on a trip today and it may take 2 to 3 days, so for the next couple of days, you folks have to bring your own breakfast. I inform you folks in advance, and hope you all don't forget about it. Please go on your trip in peace, Mr. Mag. We can take care of ourselves, old Jack said with a laugh, and the other cleaners chimed in too. Didn't he promise us there will be breakfast every day? It's only been 2 days and it stops, Elton grumbled unhappily as he drank a mouthful of the congee. This congee was delicious and free. Normally, he would always go hungry in the morning, and now the congee stopped after 2 days. He gazed at Mag and moved his eyes around. Then, he laughed and stood up as he said to Mag, Mr. Mag, we won't have any breakfast once you leave. Why don't we do this, since a bowl of your congee with pork and century egg sells for 200 copper coins, you can give each of us 400 copper coins to buy our own breakfast for these couple of days. The stuff that you give out will be of equal value, and we can have hot breakfast too. This problem will be solved. Many cleaners lifted their heads when they heard about 400 copper coins, which was almost a month of their wages. Even though they felt Elton's method didn't seem quite right, on second thought, his words weren't wrong, either. That was 400 copper coins. They could buy lots of meat if they got it. Mag looked at Elton and then suddenly laughed. This cad was much more despicable than he had imagined. Elton, you nasty, old cad. Old Jack stood up immediately, pointed his finger at Elton, and furiously scolded, Mr. Mag made us breakfast out of his own goodwill. He even got up early on his day off to stay true to his promise. What does he have to gain from you? The dirt on your body? Now, he has to leave for an errand, and you actually have the cheek to ask him for 400 copper coins for breakfast? What do you think you are? Why don't you use your face to sweep the floor? You don't want your face, but we still want ours. We couldn't bring ourselves to make such a request. I even feel I have let Mr. Mag down by eating this congee next to you. Yes. Mr. Mag is a great person. Please go on your trip in peace. We will take care of our own breakfast, many of the cleaners chimed in. Some of the cleaners who were tempted earlier blushed and lowered their heads in shame. Old Fart has thwarted my plans. Elton eyed old Jack viciously. He saw that everyone was dissuaded by old Jack's words and he had become the bad guy, so he began to smile and say to Mag, I am just saying it for fun. It's just a joke. Don't mind me, Boss Mag. It's fine. From tomorrow onward, you don't have to come. Mag smiled, and said to Elton, this is not a joke. Its literal simple meaning. From tomorrow onward, Mamie Restaurant will no longer supply breakfast for you, Mag said to Elton sarcastically. I am not serving you anymore. Elton's expression changed drastically, and he pleaded, Mr. Mag, I was just joking earlier, please don't take it seriously. I promise I will never joke again. Look, the weather is so cold, I'll be frozen to death if I don't get a hot breakfast. Please take pity on me. Anna looked at Elton and then Mag. She seemed to want to speak, but hesitated to. The other cleaners were also looking at Mag. Elton had indeed gone overboard. They were wondering how Mr. Mag would handle it. Excuse me, my kindness is limited. I only want to give it to people I want to share it with, and you obviously are not one of them. You are on the restaurant's blacklist. From now on, my restaurant will not be serving you, Mag said mildly, without any leeway for negotiation. Elton stared at Mag, and realized he wasn't going to negotiate or back down from not supplying him with the congee. Anger gave Elton the courage, and he smashed the big bowl onto the ground. He pointed at Mag with a smirk and scolded, You are a hypocrite. You supply us with a little congee to do a show. Now, you are deliberately finding fault with me to stop supplying the porridge. I am going to expose you and let everyone know what kind of person you are. I am going to the city lord to report you. Mag glanced at the shattered bowl on the ground and cocked an eyebrow. This fellow was really an incorrigible person. Elton looked Mag with smugness in his eyes. These rich people most cared about their reputation and face, especially a restaurateur like Mag. His business was going to suffer if his reputation was damaged. Mag would definitely bow down to him, and then Elton could extort a sum of money from him, and would be able to enjoy himself for the next few months. Old Jack wanted to speak again, but the old lady stopped him, and softly said, Mr. Mag can solve this himself. Don't mess things up for him. He isn't someone Elton could extort money from. Mag looked at Elton as he smirked and said, You're free to go report me wherever you like. This is your freedom. Of course, I am going to hold you accountable for all the slander and false accusations. I got money and time, so I am not afraid of trouble. Elton was stunned. He didn't expect Mag would be so tough. His embarrassment became anger, and he said, Fine. I am going to report you at the city lord's castle right now. He turned to leave immediately after saying that. Wait a minute. It's fine if you want to report me, but compensate me for the bowl that you broke deliberately first. This is a top-grade porcelain bowl from the east. One costs 400 copper coins. Mag stopped Elton and pointed at the shattered bowl on the ground. 400 copper coins. Elton's eyes widened. He stared at the shattered bowl and then at Mag. He angrily said, This is extortion. Extortion. Mag laughed. Then, his gaze turned cold and he raised his voice. What you have done is akin to disorderly behavior. You have deliberately damaged others' property. According to Chaos City's law, you have to be responsible and compensate me accordingly. There was panic in Elton's eyes. He didn't know any laws, and didn't expect Mag wouldn't back off, clashing with him head-on instead. His monthly wage was only 600 copper coins, and he would spend it all on drinking on gambling within a few days. He still owed quite a lot of money, so there was no way he could compensate Mag with 600 copper coins. I am not going to argue with you anymore. Elton waved his hand and picked up his broom, preparing to leave. Hey, dirty grandpa, you have to pay for what you broke. Otherwise, my little fireball is not going to let you off. Amy's melodious voice sounded from behind. Nobody noticed that Amy had woken up, and was standing at the entrance with a little fireball dancing on her hand. Elton's expression changed when he turned around and saw the tiny fireball in Amy's hand. He carried his broom as he ran and shouted, Assault! Someone is assaulting cleaners. Assault, he ran. Looks like he is not going to pay. What a bad decision, Amy murmured before pointing her finger at Elton. The little fireball flew out and chased after Elton. A dirty old man carrying a broom and a dancing red fireball were running around Aden Square crazily. They were maintaining a distance of 50 centimeters the whole time. Mag turned and asked, "Amy, will there be trouble?" "Don't worry, father. He is not going to die," Amy promised. Boom! An explosion sounded, and a small mushroom cloud rose up in the distance, accompanied by shrill screams. Elton, who was covered in flames, dived into the bone-chilling fountain. The flames were extinguished instantly. Although he wasn't injured, the clothes on his body were all burned off, and the clear water became black. He was shivering in the water. He couldn't decide whether to get up or not. He was so cold that tears flowed down his face. Heavens, I should have just eaten the free breakfast and kept quiet. Now, I have neither breakfast nor clothes, how am I going to survive this winter? The cleaners all grasped the bowls in their hands tightly after watching this scene. This was a bowl that cost 400 copper coins. They would have worked for nothing if they had broken one. However, nobody sympathized with Elton. They all knew what kind of person he was. He was lazy and dishonest. He failed when he had designs on Mr. Mag, and was punished instead, so he had it coming. Mr. Mag and the little girl are really formidable. They had Elton under control, old Jack said to the old lady smilingly. Uncle Mag and Amy are still the ones with solutions when it comes to dealing with bad guys, Anna thought. She wouldn't know what to do if it was up to her. Mag pinched Amy's face with a smile before saying to the cleaners, "Please continue, everyone. There is still plenty in the pot." He took a broom, swept up the fragments, and threw them into the rubbish bin. He wasn't some saint, so he wouldn't tolerate anyone. After breakfast, Mag packed his stuff, wrote a notice, and hung it at the door. "Uncle Mag, are you going on a trip?" Anna asked curiously after she saw the notice. "Will I be an inconvenience to them?" Anna thought worriedly before shaking her head, and said, "No, thank you. I will go to Big Sister Mia's ice cream shop." "All right then." Mag didn't insist. The trip to the dwarves wasn't actually a real trip. He wasn't sure if they would encounter any danger during their journey. Then, he asked Gina in the merfolk's language, "Gina, we need to go on a trip for a couple of days. If you are bored, you can return to Lantist or go have fun with Mia." Shaking her head, Gina said, "Lantist is too far away, and I don't want to bother Elizabeth. I will go to the ice cream shop with Anna." "All right then." Mag nodded. It was indeed very troublesome to travel to the boundless sea realm without a flying mode of transport. "Father, where are we going to play?" Amy asked curiously, hugging Ugly Duckling. "We are going to a far-away place. Wait here for me, I need to get something first." Mag went back to the restaurant to scoop up the fat head fish that he had hacked on its head this morning. He put it into a small bucket, and took out a set of ingredients for making steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers from the fridge. Then, he lowered his head and said to the fat head fish swimming leisurely in the small bucket, "Don't think I can't do anything to you. I will eat you on our way there. I may not have a cleaver, but I have a sword." The fat head fish glared, and started to jump hysterically in the bucket. Mag covered the bucket, which was a special bucket he bought from the system. Even a third-tier magic beast like it couldn't burst out of it. He was going head-on with this fat head fish. "Let's go. We will go to the ice cream shop first as I have something to tell them before we depart." Mag came out and locked the door. He held Anna with his right hand and Amy with his left, and walked toward the ice cream shop. Gina looked around her for a moment before she ran to catch up with them. She held Amy's hand with a radiant smile. Mag told Mia and the gang that he needed to go on a trip, and would only be back 2-3 days later. The restaurant would suspend its business until he got back. Then, he left with Amy. After getting out of the city, Mag brought Amy to look for Ozzy on the mountain. Mag whistled when they reached the middle of the mountain. Ozzy dashed out of the cave rapidly, and let out a surprised call as it dived toward Mag and Amy. Ugly Duckling, which was lazing comfortably in Amy's arms, opened its eyes and saw a huge griffin diving toward them. It jumped out of Amy's hands and hid behind her, shivering badly. Ozzy landed in front of Mag and rubbed its head against Mag's hand. It moved back instinctively when it saw Amy reach out, but it quickly went back to let her caress its head when it saw her expression become stern. "How are you, little Ozzy?" Amy said smilingly. She wasn't scared of the griffin's massive size at all. "Meow!" Ugly Duckling called out weakly as if it was trying to remind Amy of its existence. Ozzy was surprised to hear that call, and it stretched out its neck to look behind Amy. Its eyes lit up when it saw Ugly Duckling, which was hiding behind Amy. "Meow!" Ugly Duckling was shocked. It hugged Amy's leg and buried its head into her shoes. It didn't dare to raise its head and huddled itself. "You are such a scaredy cat, Ugly Duckling," Amy said with disdain. Ozzy slowly lowered its head and gave Ugly Duckling a puff. Puff as if a strong wind was blowing at it. Ugly Duckling fell back and rolled several times before lying on the ground and looking up at that huge head with a befuddled expression. The furry head had dazzling purplish golden fur and looked very majestic. Ugly Duckling rolled its eyes about, and dared not make a move as it looked at Amy for help. Ozzy got closer to sniff at Ugly Duckling. An expression of ponder appeared on its face, and it went over to the other side to give Ugly Duckling a puff again. Ugly Duckling fell back and rolled several times before lying on the ground with its white belly facing the sky. It rolled its eyes back and stuck its tongue out to play dead on the ground. Mag, who was about to stop Ozzy from hurting Ugly Duckling, faltered. He was watching Ozzy size up Ugly Duckling with interest. What was Ugly Duckling actually? So many customers came to the restaurant every day, but none of them knew what Ugly Duckling was. This made him really curious. Ozzy was a 10th-tier purple-striped griffin. It always treated the usual magic beasts with disdain, and seldom paid attention to them. But now, he was surprised that it was so interested in Ugly Duckling. Could Ugly Duckling be the offspring of some super magic beast too? Ozzy went close to Ugly Duckling, which was playing dead, and bared its scary teeth suddenly. Meow! Ugly Duckling was so shocked that it opened its eyes immediately and smacked Ozzy on its face. Then, it jumped up and dashed back into Amy's arms. It hid its head in her arms, leaving its butt facing out. Ha ha ha! Ugly Duckling left 3 light white scratches on Ozzy's head and made Ozzy laugh hysterically. "See, little Ozzy is laughing at you because you are fat. You are a fat and scaredy cat." Amy poked Ugly Duckling's fat butt with disdain. "Meat for you, Ozzy." Mag took out a big piece of beef from his backpack and threw it into the sky. Ozzy leaped into the sky and caught it with its mouth. It chewed and swallowed before landing in front of Mag and shook its tail vigorously. "I only brought a piece with me. You can catch your own prey along the way, and I will roast it for you." Mag laughed and shook his head as he stroked it. Then, as he carried Amy and jumped onto the griffin's back, he said, "Ozzy, bring us to Eason Castle. Don't let anyone see us on our way there." Howl! Ozzy let out a long howl and took off toward the west, spreading its wings. Meow! Ugly Duckling poked its head out Amy's arms and looked down. Its eyes became 2 spirals instantly, and it fainted in Amy's arms. This made Ozzy laugh out again. Ozzy caught quite a big goat on the way, and Mag roasted it on the spot. He cut out 2 pieces for Amy in his lunch, and then gave the rest to Ozzy as a reward. After eating the roast goat, Ozzy continued to fly toward the west with them on its back. After a while, a castle built in the midst of mountains appeared in Mag's vision. Black steel embedded into the cliffs and interconnected tunnels built up a nation in the mountains. This was the Eason Castle, a nation that belonged to the dwarves, and the capital of forging of the Norland continent. Ozzy landed in a valley not too far away from Eason Castle. Mag leaped to the ground with Amy. He stroked Ozzy's head, and said, "Play around here, Ozzy. Don't be discovered by others." We will stop here for a maximum of 3 days. Ozzy nodded, and its gaze landed on Ugly Duckling in Amy's arms. Even though Ugly Duckling is a little stupid, it's still mine. You cannot have ideas on it, little Ozzy, Amy said sternly. Chapter 1166. Can I just take a small bite, please? Puff. Ozzy puffed out with annoyance, but it shrugged when it looked at Amy, trying not to make her angry. However, I can consider sharing a little with you when it gets bigger, Amy murmured. But only a little. Meow. Ugly Duckling's eyes widened as it realized things weren't as simple as it thought. Howl. Ozzy seemed to have understood Amy. It raised its head and released a happy howl as it looked at Ugly Duckling expectantly. All right, let's go to Eason Castle first. Although it looks quite near, we still have to find the best blacksmith when we get there. Mag waved goodbye to Ozzy. He held Amy's hand and walked toward Eason Castle. Ozzy flapped its wings and left the canyon where people often passed by. Eason Castle looked close when they were in the air, but to prevent others from discovering them, Ozzy landed tens of miles away. It would take them some time to travel there. Amy got tired only after walking for a short while. Mag carried her up, dumped Ugly Duckling into his backpack, and continued walking toward the steel castle in the midst of the mountains. Just as Mag was considering renting a bicycle from the system, sounds of horses' hooves and horse-drawn carriages appeared behind them. Mag stood at the side to let them pass, but the caravan stopped next to them. On the first horse-drawn carriage, a middle-aged man in merchant clothing asked Mag, "Hey, are you going to the Eason Castle? Do you want us to give you a ride since you have brought a child along with you?" His gaze landed on Amy, who was sleeping in Mag's arms, momentarily. He didn't know what this fellow was thinking, bringing a child out in such cold weather. The child would have been frozen by the time they walked to Eason Castle. Mag surveyed the caravan. There were 10 odd horse-drawn carriages full of goods, and the coachmen were all humans. They looked like merchants from Rodu, and this chubby middle-aged man who greeted them should be the owner of the caravan. He was tanned and looked friendly, so Mag smiled, and replied, "If it's possible, can we bother you, please?" "All right, hop in. There is a charcoal stove in the carriage. It's warm. Don't let the kid freeze," Godala said with a generous laugh as he lifted the heavy drapes of the carriage to let Mag and Amy in. Mag carried Amy onto the carriage, and the warm air engulfed them. The coldness was totally shut out. The interior of the carriage was rather spacious, and there was a rollaway bed at the back, so it should be where this merchant usually slept. There was an iron basin which had charcoal burning in it in the center of the carriage. There was a little iron grill on it which had a chicken roasting upon it. The carriage was already filled with the aroma of roast chicken. Roast chicken! Amy had woken up the moment Mag sat down. She popped her head out of Mag's arms, and stared at the roast chicken on the grill. "This is not our roast chicken," Mag said with a resigned smile. This little one could even notice a roast chicken in her sleep. "Not ours." Amy looked around her. How did she end up in this place? She had only dozed off for a short while. She perplexedly asked Mag, "Are we there already, father?" "Not yet. This kind uncle is giving us a ride, so we are in his horse-drawn carriage," Mag said, shaking his head. "Oh." Amy nodded with a thoughtful expression. Then, she made a sweet smile, and asked Godala, "Uncle, is that roast chicken yours? Can I just take a small bite, please? This little girl is so adorable." Godala looked at Amy with wide eyes. He took the roast chicken and passed it to Amy with a smile. "You can even have 2 bites. Amy, don't eat others' food. Uncle may not have had his meal yet." Mag shook his head at Amy, who was about to accept the roast chicken. "It's fine, it's fine. How much can a kid eat with 2 bites? Let her have some first, I can just eat the leftovers," Godala said as he waved his hand. The little girl looked utterly precious and lovable. It was totally fine to let her have 2 bites first. Amy retrieved her hands while staring at the roast chicken as she said to Mag, "Father, Uncle says it's fine." "This," Mag murmured. He finally nodded when he saw that Godala indeed didn't mind. He again reminded her, "Just 1 bite." Amy nodded happily as she pulled a thigh off the chicken and stuffed the whole thigh into her mouth. She chewed for a while, and then spat out a perfectly clean thigh bone before swallowing the rest. She nodded satedly. "Even though it isn't as nice as the ones father roasted, it is good enough." "This," Godala stared at Amy, who ate a whole chicken thigh in a bite, in a shock. He only regained his wits after a while. How did this tiny little girl eat a whole chicken thigh in a single bite? Even he couldn't have done that. Moreover, he indeed had not had his lunch yet. This chicken which he had roasted for the past 1 hour was the lunch that he had prepared for himself. He would be lying if he said he didn't feel his heart ache when he lost a whole thigh to a single bite. "Uncle, can I have another bite, please?" Amy gave Godala a charming smile again. Looking at that smile that was as cute as a kitten, who could believe that she had just eaten a whole chicken thigh in a single bite? Even though he had said the words himself earlier, looking at the way she ate, he would only be left with bones when she were to take another bite. I think you father is right. Little children shouldn't eat too much when they sit in a carriage, or else they would feel uncomfortable." Godala took the roast chicken over from Amy and nodded seriously. Mag touched his nose as he tried to hold back his laughter. "It's only a small bite." Amy retrieved her gaze unwillingly from the roast chicken. She took Ugly Duckling out from the backpack and hugged it. She leaned against Mag and immediately closed her eyes to resume her sleep. Stunned, Godala stared at Amy, who fell asleep instantly. Then, he gave Mag a thumbs up. "This daughter of yours is a genius. You're far too kind." Mag turned to his side slightly to let Amy lean at a more comfortable angle. "Oh yes, I am Godala. A merchant from Rodu. Where did you come from? What are you going to do at Eason Castle?" Godala asked Mag curiously. This pair of father and daughter didn't look like merchants or vagrants. Instead, they looked like the rich who came out for a leisure trip. They even brought along a kitten of a strange coloring. Godala looked at Mag, feeling rather surprised. That they could take a flying steed from Chaos City to Eason Castle implied that this pair of father and daughter were indeed not vagrants, and were rather well-to-do people. They simply had a stroke of bad luck. Smiling, he said, "In this case, you have rather bad luck. If you haven't met me, you would have been walking for 2-3 hours in the cold weather. What did you guys come so far to Eason Castle to do?" "I am a chef. I came here to find the best blacksmith to make me a handy cleaver. I wonder if Mr. Godala knows who is the best blacksmith in Eason Castle? Where can I find him?" Mag asked. "I have been shuttling between Rodu and Eason Castle for the past 30 over years. I stay at Eason Castle for 3 months every year, so naturally I know it like the back of my hand," Godala said confidently. Then, he puzzledly asked Mag, "Even though I have never been to Chaos City, I have heard many of my colleagues say that Chaos City has every species there. It shouldn't be difficult to find a dwarf blacksmith to make you a cleaver there? Why did you come to Eason Castle specially for that? And you are even looking for the best blacksmith? Isn't this too over the top? The cleavers made by the blacksmiths in Chaos City couldn't satisfy my requirements," Mag replied to Godala, who was looking at him as if he was a moron, calmly. "Couldn't satisfy your requirements? Do you have to demand so much from a cleaver?" Godala still couldn't understand as he tore out a chicken thigh and started eating it. He always used a small knife that he brought along with him whenever he ate the wild game that he caught on his journey. He bought it at a roadside stall at Eason Castle with 3 copper coins. It was still perfectly functional after 10 odd years of use. Why was Mag being so particular? Some of the ingredients can't be hacked apart with a normal cleaver. Hence, I have to come to look for the best blacksmith in Eason Castle to make the best cleaver, Mag replied. A normal cleaver can't hack it apart? Are you cooking with magic beasts? Godala was slightly taken aback. He had seen quite a number of magic beasts as a traveling merchant all these years. Because a caravan always had 1 or 2 knights traveling along with them, nothing ever happened when they met the low-tier magic beasts. The magic beasts did have solid bones, and even the knights' long swords couldn't hack them apart. Yes. Mag nodded before continuing, please tell me all about the formidable blacksmiths in Eason Castle, Mr. Godala. The motive of my trip is to bring back the best cleaver. I would be wasting time if I asked after we reached Eason Castle. All right, then. I will tell you about them. Godala saw that Mag was very determined, so he didn't ask any more. If you ask who is the most famous blacksmith in Eason Castle, that has to be the legendary blacksmith Master Rom. Master Rom, who is already at the ripe old age of 400, has left his name on the Norland continent for making uncountable famous weapons. The most famous among them was Lord Alex's Tiandu sword. Over 300 years ago, Master Rom had custom-made the Tiandu sword for the ancestor of the Alex family. That ancestor guarded the northwest of the empire, and rendered meritorious service. He extended the glory of the Alex family at its peak. Many years later, the Alex family's castle was overrun by the demons and Orcs coalition forces. The family was exterminated, and almost no one survived. 300 years later, Master Alex appeared out of nowhere with the Tiandu sword, and became the strongest powerhouse of the Roth Empire without any dispute. He was like an archangel that descended from above and crushed all the powerhouses on the Norland continent. He slaughtered dragons and demons, and was deemed the #1 knight. Tiandu sword was again famous and considered as the #1 sword in the world. Mag was rather surprised that the master who'd made the Tiandu sword was still alive. Mr. Godala likes Alex a lot, he smilingly asked Godala, who was very excited when he talked about Alex. Of course. Is there anyone in the Roth Empire who doesn't like Master Alex? He is the pride of our empire. He was the first knight in this world to be called a dragon killer, and because of him, we, the people of Roth Empire, never fear the giant dragons again, Godala said with conviction. He glanced at Mag and then shook his head dejectedly. Never mind. A chef like you wouldn't understand. Anyway, you could never imagine the things that Master Alex had done. All right, please continue to talk about that Master Rom. Mag nodded as he tried to hold back his laughter. Master Rom had made many other famous masterpieces besides the Tiandu sword. Only the most powerful powerhouses from each species are able to reserve a weapon from him. Normal people don't even have the rights to line up for them, Godala lamented. So, this means that this Master Rom represents the highest standards of the blacksmiths in Eason Castle. Mag said thoughtfully. You can put it that way too. You can go ask around, nobody will say they are better than Master Rom. Godala nodded before trying to talk Mag out of his idea. Don't even think about Master Rom. You can't even get in the line. Furthermore, I have heard that Master Rom's temper has gotten from bad to worse in the last few years. He has already changed many assistants in the shop, and customers who went in without an appointment were scolded and chased out straight away. You'd better not go and try your luck. I want to have the best cleaver forged for me, so I am afraid that I have to go and try my luck, Mag said with a smile. I wonder if Mr. Godala knows the location of Master Rom's workshop. Sigh. I have already said you will not succeed at Master Rom's. He only makes the best weapons in this world. Why would he make a cleaver for you? You will be beaten and thrown out by his disciples if you go to him. If you want to find a good blacksmith, I can introduce a few who are capable and easy to negotiate with. Why do you have to seek trouble for yourself? Godala looked at Mag puzzledly. Mag could see that Godala was being kind, but he still shook his head with a smile. Since I have already come to Eason Castle, I have to give it a try. If I failed, Mr. Godala could introduce the other blacksmiths to me. All right. We will be passing by Master Ram's workshop later, and I will let you alight there. Godala gave up trying to talk Mag out of it after he saw that Mag was so stubborn. He would know what he said was true after he ran into the wall. For the rest of their journey, Godala told Mag about the rules and things to note in Eason Castle. They had a good time chatting. That is Master Ram's workshop, Mr. Mag. The horse-drawn carriage stopped on a street in Eason Castle. Godala very seriously reminded Mag, I am staying at the Tam Inn at the end of this street. You can come and look for me if you have any trouble. Remember, do not provoke Master Ram, or it will be very troublesome. Chapter 1168 Humiliating the Master. The blacksmith shop had a small door that was half closed, and he could hear the tinkering sounds coming from within. The line was formed outside that door. A demon with a ferocious face, a demon with a strapping figure, a human knight in armor, an elf with an aloof expression, and a goblin with a pointy face. They were all looking at one another with hostility as they stood in the line. All of them had the presence of a powerhouse. Mag's gaze swept across them, even the weakest elf had a 7th tier power. The rest of them were 8th tier and 9th tier powerhouses. This scene made Mag feel rather familiar. Amy looked at the line curiously, and asked, Father, are they lining up for their meals? No. They should be waiting to order their weapons. Let's join the line. Mag shook his head and brought Amy along with him to walk to the end of the line. Mag joined the line, and he instantly attracted the attention of all the customers standing in front of him. They were sizing him up with hostility in their eyes. After they saw that Mag was just a normal human, there was also disdain in their expressions. The demon standing in front of Mag turned around with a hostile expression, and said to Mag, Hey, what are you doing here, chap? Bringing your kid out for fun? Do you know what this place is? His gaze even lingered on Amy as he made a scary face at her. Ha ha ha. Uncle, you have a funny expression. Amy was not scared at all, and she laughed happily instead. Funny. Hey Deng was stunned. His scary looks could even make little demons cry on the spot, let alone human children, and this kiddo actually said he looked funny? Wasn't this insulting his looks? Mag pulled Amy behind him, and calmly said to this hideous-looking demon, This should be Master Ram's workshop, right? I came here to ask him to forge a cleaver. A 7th tier demon. He could even kill him instantly with his current capability, and he had the capability to duel with any one of those in the line. He, who had just broken through to the 8th tier, hadn't sparred with anyone yet. See cleaver. Hey Deng was taken aback, and he stared at Mag in disbelief. You are talking about the cleavers that you humans use to chop your food ingredients. Everyone in the line looked stunned and a little furious. They had come to line up here every day, hoping that Master Ram would be kind enough to forge a unique weapon for them one fine day and they could become one of the top powerhouses in Norland continent. And this fellow actually wanted Master Ram to forge a cleaver for him? Wasn't it akin to humiliating the master? It was because of these ridiculous fellows that made trouble at the master's workshop every day that the master got irritated with them, the innocent customers. Mag replied calmly. The dishes my father makes are fantastic, Amy chimed in. Everyone glared at them. This father and daughter pair simply had no shame. Hey Deng was very angry, but he couldn't vent his anger when he looked at the adorable little Lolita. He pointed to the front. If you want to forge a cleaver, you can do it at any of the other blacksmith shops. Why are you coming here to create trouble at Master Ram's? See that shop over there specializes in making cleavers and hoes. You can proceed over there. Thank you very much for your concern. My cleaver must be made by Master Rom. Mag shook his head, and didn't bother with Hey Deng anymore. He took out a water bottle, poured a cup of water for Amy, and then he tilted back his head to drink from the bottle heartily. Hey Deng still wanted to say something. Right at this moment, that half-closed door suddenly opened outward, and a lad in his teens walked out. With a sad expression, he said, "You guys can go now. Master Ram says he doesn't want to see anyone today. Even if you wait till the sun goes down, he will not see you." Everyone in the line felt disappointed immediately. "Little master, is Master Ram in a bad mood again today?" the orc standing in the very front asked in a soft voice. The young shop assistant looked inside with a depressed expression, and then said, "Master has been in a bad mood for the past 2 years. You guys can stop coming. Master will never make weapons for you if he cannot finish his current work." They began to go away with disappointment on their faces. Even though they had been through the same experience numerous times, their hope seemed to get dimmer and dimmer with every rejection. "Sigh, I guess I will come again tomorrow." Deng sighed and prepared to leave too. He looked at Mag, who was keeping the water bottle, and began to move to the front, and asked with befuddlement, "Why are you still moving to the front? Master Ram already said he wouldn't be taking any customers." "He might see me since all of you have left," Mag said smilingly. "He only had 3 days." Even though it looked like that Master Ram had a weird temper, he still had to give it a try. Deng sarcastically said, "Ah, you really think you are nice to look at? Master Ram has even rejected many 10th tier powerhouses, and you want him to make you a cleaver? You know about Alex, right? That guy who flies around in the sky on a griffin and kills dragons for fun. His sword was made by Master Ram, and you want to use a cleaver that came from his sword's creator." The customers who were still close by laughed at Mag sarcastically. This fellow was so ridiculous. A chef trying to get Master Ram to make him a cleaver was really one big joke. Since when has Master Ram stopped accepting normal orders? Mag asked instead, ignoring Deng and the other customers sneering. Deng saw that Mag had remained calm, so he toned down his sarcastic smile. After some thought, he said, "It has been more than 1 year. I heard Master Ram was very friendly before. Although he didn't accept many orders, he was always polite to his disciples and customers. But in the recent couple of years, his temper has been getting worse. He has already changed 3 batches of apprentices, and is very unfriendly to customers who come to his workshop." As if he had felt he was being over-friendly to Mag, Deng put on a serious face again and smirked. "Anyway, you must be daydreaming if you want Master Ram to make a cleaver for you. You could even get beaten up by his disciples and thrown out to the other street. I hope I can still see you here tomorrow." Deng left after saying that. The other customers had also left. Mag arranged his clothes and then held Amy's hand as he approached the lad, who was about to close the door, with a smile. "Little master, can you help me tell Master Ram that I am a chef from Chaos City, and I would like to ask Master Ram to make a cleaver for me?" Chapter 1169. Excuse me, can you lend me a knife please? Master Ram said he was not receiving any customers or accepting any orders today. Please go back. The shop assistant shook his head. This human chef most likely didn't know the situation very well. It was usually the powerhouses who came to look for the master to forge a weapon specially for them. Instead, he had requested to forge a cleaver. "May I bother you to inform the master?" Mag insisted. The assistant pondered after he saw Mag's determined gaze. Then, he nodded. "All right. I will pass on the message, but don't get your hopes up." "Thank you." Mag nodded. The lad turned and went in. The interior of the weapons shop was much more spacious than it looked from the outside. However, there wasn't much lighting in there. There were only 2 dim yellowish wall lights, which made the interior look quite dark. A little blacksmith in his teens was standing in front of the furnace, flattening the red iron ore with the heavy hammer in his hand with all his might. An old dwarf with white hair was sitting on an iron stool in front of the furnace. The pipe that he was smoking was already extinguished, and he was staring at the dancing flames in the furnace with a vacant look. "Master Rom. The lad went forward and called him cautiously. The old man remained dazed for quite some time before he raised his head up, revealing his red bulbous nose. He frowned, and impatiently said, "What's the matter? Haven't those irritating fellows scrammed yet?" "No, they are already gone. However, there is a chef who said he came from Chaos City, and would like you to custom make a cleaver for him. He wanted me to pass you this message," the lad quickly said. He peeped at the master's expression, and he knew he had gotten himself into trouble because of that fellow at the entrance. "Cleaver." Master Ram was stunned. Then, as if he had suddenly recalled something, he raised his voice. "You are saying there is a fellow out there who wants me to make a cleaver for him?" Cold sweat began to trickle down from the lad's forehead. He suddenly regretted passing the message about making a cleaver for that fellow. He could have just lost the chance to continue working at Master Ram's workshop. However, he could only nod his head under the gaze of Master Ram now. "Ha! I learned to forge at the age of 5, and I no longer forged stuff like cleavers and hoes since I was 8. I have forged countless weapons for the past 400 years, and they are all considered to be the best of the best, and now somebody is asking me to forge a cleaver? Do they think I am at my wit's end?" Master Ram kicked an iron frame at the side over. The iron frame that was full of unfinished weapons fell to the ground, making a din. The little apprentice put down the hammer in his hand slowly and looked at the shop assistant with a worried look. The young shop assistant panicked, and he said in a quivering voice, I'll ask him to leave now." "No need. Scram, all of you scram!" Master Ram roared angrily. "Yes," both the apprentice and the assistant replied. They didn't dare to pick up the iron frame, and swiftly walked toward the door. Mag, who was standing at the half-closed door, could hear the movements in there clearly. He felt rather guilty when he saw the two young lads rush out and close the door. "Please go. Mr. Ram will not see you." That assistant gave Mag a complicated look, and then left with the other lad dejectedly. Both of their backs looked desolate. "Father, why are they not happy?" Amy asked perplexedly. "They were scolded by their master because of father. They may even lose their jobs." Mag looked at their backs, and felt that he should find a chance to compensate them. Only when their backs disappeared at the end of the street did Mag stop looking at them to look at the ancient workshop. "Must this cleaver be made by Master Ram, system? Can I change to another expert blacksmith?" Mag asked in his heart. Master Ram is the top blacksmith in this world. No one's forging skills is comparable to his. Only the cleaver he makes can cut through anything and will be able to accompany the host on his life journey. So, the host has to get Master Ram to forge the cleaver for him before the mission is considered completed. "System, this mission of yours is unreasonable. He looks down on forging cleavers." "This is an impossible mission," Mag said with dejection. "There will be all sorts of trouble on your journey to become the god of cookery. I hope the host will try to conquer them enthusiastically," the system encouraged before disappearing completely. "Damn!" Mag rolled his eyes. He went into deep thought, staring at the tightly shut door. In the blacksmith workshop, Ram stared at the mess on the ground. He took a deep breath before lying in the chair, staring at the fire in a daze. He had never left this workshop in his entire life. He learned how to forge from his father at 5 years old, and he could forge the best cleavers and hoes in Eason Castle when he was 6. He started to forge weapons at the age of 8, and it all started from there. Tiandu's sword was forged for a knight who came from afar when he was 20. He spent 1 whole year's time before that sword was forged successfully, and that young knight used that sword to the north of the human territory, rendered meritorious service, and slaughtered many powerhouses. It also brought him the attention of the people on the Norland continent, and made him a famous blacksmith. And in the hundreds of years that followed after, he made numerous weapons, and they had become the murder weapons in the hands of the many powerhouses. He became more and more famous. 10th-tier powerhouses began to line up to ask him to forge their weapons, and the rich and powerful of all the species began to lower their high and mighty heads to ask him to make a weapon for them. Even during the years of the species war, he never left his workshop. He was immersed in forging, giving the powerhouses powerful weapon after powerful weapon, and allowed them to gain fame and notoriety. They gave him the name of Number 1 Blacksmith. He didn't know what he wanted, but he enjoyed the feeling of being immersed totally in forging very much. He was even more addicted to the sensation of success when he took the powerful weapons out of the furnace when they were done. However, when he woke up one morning 2 years ago, he suddenly couldn't remember what he had done yesterday. He had even forgotten how many strikes he had struck on that sword he was forging the day before. He also couldn't remember the number of procedures he had done on it too. To a blacksmith, this was without a doubt fatal. He could no longer forge a weapon alone all by himself, but he was unwilling to tell anyone about this. Therefore, he became frustrated and irritable. He chased away his closest disciples, and no longer accepted new orders. He had not given out a weapon in 2 years. The 400 years of lifespan seemed to be coming to an end. Ram knew this very clearly, but he didn't want to admit it. He was willing to collapse on his forging table one day, but he didn't want to die in a haze. Right at this moment, there was a knock at the door, and a cute and cuddly voice said, "Excuse me, can you lend me a knife please?" "Who wants to borrow a knife? A little girl? Weird." Ram frowned. He slowly stood up and grabbed the wine canister at the side. He opened the cover and had a gulp before walking to the door. Even though he was slowly losing control of his emotions in these 2 years, he couldn't reject children as he got older. Ram opened the door, and saw a little half-elf girl about 4-5 years old standing at the door. The little one was so pretty, and she was looking up at him now. "Little one, why are you knocking on my door?" Ram tried to lower his voice so he wouldn't scare this little one. "Old grandpa, can you lend me a knife, please? My father and I came from a far-away place. We don't have a place to stay and a place to eat. Now, we can only cook our own dinner here. But, we forgot to bring our cleaver, so we can't even chop open that stupid fish," Amy said to Ram piteously. Ram looked at where Amy was pointing. There was a fire lit on the empty space opposite of the workshop, and a young man was standing next to the fire. He was looking over here with a smile, and there was a big bag at his feet. "I don't have a cleaver, little one. Go and ask somewhere else." Ram shook his head. He didn't lie, there indeed wasn't a cleaver in his workshop. Amy took a look at the dark alley, shaking her head, and said, "But everyone else is closed. Old grandpa, can you just lend us any knife? As long as we can cut open that stupid fish." Mag, who was standing next to the fire, was also appraising Ram. This old dwarf still looked very strong. His thick arms were as thick as a normal human's waist, so they made him look very squarish. His white hair and wrinkles proved his age. Given the dwarf's average lifespan of 400, this Master Ram was indeed very old. However, he looked quite friendly when he was talking to Amy. One couldn't imagine he had just screamed at his assistants irritably earlier. Ram looked around, and saw the other shops on the streets were indeed all closed. The dwarves loved to drink, and they all went to the pubs to drink once the sky turned dark. It was really not easy to find another place to borrow a knife. Mag came forward and said to Ram, "Nice to meet you, I am Mag. My daughter and I came from Chaos City. I would like to ask Master Ram to forge the best cleaver in this world for me. I have made Master Ram angry, and gotten the 2 lads in trouble with my imprudent behavior earlier. I feel very bad, and would like to apologize to Master Ram for that. I hope Master Ram can forgive the 2 young gentlemen. You are that fellow who was trying to ask me to forge a cleaver earlier." Ram furrowed his eyebrows with an angry expression. He raised his voice and said, "I am a weaponsmith. I only forge weapons for battle. I never forge cleavers. Please go. I will never forge a cleaver for a chef." "Master Ram, as a chef, I believe the battle between a chef and his ingredients is even more intense than the battle between a knight and a magic beast, because no knight would ever slice open the magic beast's skin and hide delicately, hack open the strongest bones to find the most delicious part, and present it to his customers, Mag said Master Rom with a determined look. Ah! A chef is just a chef. Do you believe you are fighting like a knight fighting a magic beast? Rom smirked as he disagreed with Mag's laughable point of view. This is a third-tier magic beast, fathead fish. I want to use it to make the most delicious steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. I have 100 methods to kill it, but my cleaver couldn't hack open its head. Hence, I have brought it from Chaos City to Eason Castle to find a cleaver that can hack open its head, Mag said as he took out the bucket, pointing at the fathead fish in there. Rom looked at the magic beast that was bumping into the cover crazily in the bucket. The fathead fish that was making thuds was stunned too. Judging by sensing its magical presence, this was indeed a third-tier magic beast, and the big head that was a half of its whole body should be the hardest part of its body. It was indeed not easy to hack open the head of a magic beast like this without a suitable weapon. However, don't we only eat the fish's flesh? I have never heard of people eating a fish's head. So what if you could hack open this fish's head? Are you going to eat what is inside the fish's head? Rom said to Mag with a frown. A fish head that is cooked appropriately tastes way better than the flesh. Isn't it a waste to pass over such a delicacy? Mag shook his head as he said to Master Rom, Master Rom, why don't we have a bet? You lend me a knife to hack open the head of this fathead fish, and I'll cook a dish with the fish's head. You will taste it, and if you think it's delicious, please forge a cleaver for me. If you don't think it's nice, I will leave Eason Castle immediately. What do you think about it? Old Grandpa, my father's dishes are really very scrumptious, Amy said to Rom as she rubbed her tummy. With a piteous look, she continued, my tummy is starving. Meow. Ugly duckling gulped as it stared at the fathead fish in the bucket. Its eyes began to emit a green glow. That fathead fish seemed to sense a horrible threat. It stopped all its movement at once, and slowly turned around to look at Ugly Duckling. With a splat, it swam to the other end of the bucket instantly and stared at Ugly Duckling with fear. A bet. There was some hesitation on Rom's face. He looked at the fathead fish in the bucket, and then looked at Amy again. He finally nodded after pondering for some time. All right, I will bet with you. But don't get happy too early, I am very picky about my food. An elated expression appeared on Mag's face. When it comes to food, no matter how picky your mouth is, I can make you shut it and concentrate on eating. Rom went into the workshop, picked up a semi-finished product on the floor casually, and tossed it to Mag. Mag grabbed the long sword agilely. The black long sword felt rather light in his hand. Looking at this sword, it most probably wasn't complete, as the patterns on the sword's handle and body weren't carved yet. However, even though it was just a semi-finished product, it was still an exceptional sword. Good sword. Thank you, Master Rom. Please give me a moment. Mag put his hands together in a gesture. Then, he carried the sword and the bucket toward the fire. Putting down the bucket, Mag used the snow to cleanse the sword. Then, he removed the cover to grasp that fathead fish. Looking at the fathead fish that was struggling in his hand, he laughingly said, "You can continue to jump around. These knife skills." Rom, who was still vexed over letting a chef use a weapon he forged to kill a fish, widened his eyes. The clean and smooth cutting skills hacked that third-tier big fish into halves. The cut was clean and tidy, and the intestines were separated equally in the two halves perfectly without any damage. Even all the different species powerhouses that lined up at his shop every day couldn't have done that. The intestines were removed, and the sword was flipped over. Tiny scales began to fly off. In the blink of an eye, the entire fish became two equal halves of fish head on the plate. The fish tail was cut off by Mag. Because this fish's body was extremely short and the flesh was very succulent, there was still a section of flesh left just beneath the head. The entire fish could be utilized very efficiently. I guess this fathead fish should be destined to be made into the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. Mag looked at the small fish tail in his hand. He used a bamboo skewer to go through it, and then grilled it over the fire straight away. This was Ugly Duckling's dinner. After removing the gills and making a few cuts on the flesh, he rubbed cooking wine, pepper, and salt over it. Then, he left it aside to marinade. He took out the chout yen pepper and pickled ginger that he had bought from the system, and cut them up on the small chopping board that he brought along. Then, he added a little cooking wine to them, and put them into a bowl. He sliced the raw ginger and chopped spring onions into sections before placing them on the bottom of a deep dish. He placed the marinated fish head on them before putting the bright red chopped peppers on top of the fish head. There was a steaming pot hanging over the fire. The water in the pot was taken from a well nearby. The fire quickly got the water boiling. Mag lowered the plate with the fish into the pot and covered the lid. The fish was now steaming in the pot. All he needed to do was wait patiently for it to be ready. Ram walked to the fire and stared at Mag in amazement. He had never cooked for himself. He was used to having a big piece of meat with hard liquor at the pub for his meals. He had never watched someone cook so closely and attentively. He had always imagined that a chef cooked in a simple and rough manner, but Mag was different. The way that he focused on his cooking was way above the best smith he had ever seen. He was calm and confident, and his actions were practiced and smooth. He reminded him of himself. The way he looked when he was focused made the people watching him hold their breath, afraid to interrupt his exceptional performance. Mag flipped the fish tail over to the other side, and when he raised his head, he was surprised to see Ram next to the fire. Smiling, he said, "Please wait for a moment, Master Ram. It still needs some time before we can take it out." Ram cleared his throat to hide his embarrassment after staring, but he didn't think he was going to lose this bet after all. He was one deciding if this dish suited his taste. In the empty space in the street corner in front of the workshop, an old dwarf, a young cook, and a half-elf child were standing around the fire, waiting patiently for the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers to be ready. An ugly duckling was staring at that fish tail with its head up. It swallowed its saliva subconsciously. The aroma of grilled fish began to spread, and it was a smell that mesmerized the cat. Mag picked up the bamboo skewer and turned it around once. He was sure that this fish tail was already ready, so he was about to remove the skewer and give it to Ugly Duckling. Amy came forward with a sacrificial expression, and said, "Father, let me try the taste for Ugly Duckling first." Meow. Ugly Duckling shook his head at Mag quickly. A smile appeared on Mag's face. This little one was so greedy that she even wanted to eat Ugly Duckling's food. He looked at the small fish tail in his hand, and then broke off a tiny piece to give Amy, and placed the rest in front of Ugly Duckling. Meow, Howl. Ugly Duckling meowed at Mag with gratitude before climbing up a big tree at the side with the fish tail. It sat on the branch and enjoyed its dinner. Amy put the piece of fish into her mouth and chewed. Her eyes lit up as she said, "Although Father didn't put salt on it, it is still very scrumptious." Then, her gaze started to move toward Ugly Duckling, which was sitting on a branch. As if it could sense Amy's gaze, Ugly Duckling turned its body around slowly and faced her with its butt, pretending not to see her at all. "All right. That is Ugly Duckling's dinner. Let it eat in peace. It had a hard time on the journey too," Mag said laughingly as he took out a packet of rice vermicelli, and put it aside as he looked at the steaming pot. "I hope you'll get too fat." Amy gave Ugly Duckling one look before looking at the steam pot too. After steaming with a big fire for 10 minutes, Mag removed the steam pot and took the fish head. He scattered some chopped green onions over it, and drizzled a tablespoon of soy sauce above it too. Then, he heated up some oil and drizzled it over the fish head. Psst. A beautiful sound appeared. The spicy chopped chili covered the entire fish head, and the oil was dancing on the plate. The hidden freshness was ignited at this instance. The fiery red chopped chili on top covered white and tender fish head, and a piping hot aroma washed over them. Gulp! Ram's Adam's apple moved, and astonishment appeared on his face lit up by the fire. There was a light in his eyes. What a wonderful aroma! Is this really the aroma of the fish? An excited sensation washed all over me. It made me want to hide yet also go ahead at the same time. It's too amazing. Ram stared at the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers with disbelief. A storm was already brewing in his heart. His stomach growled beyond his control, and that made him blush. A curl appeared on Mag's lips. Everything would be easy now as his stomach had growled. He changed the water in the pot, and placed it over the fire again. Have a seat here, Master Ram. We have only one fish for you today. Mag invited him as he took the plate of fish head, and went over to the simple tables and chairs that the old folks used to sit under the sun. He placed the plate on the table. Amy had already jogged over and climbed up onto a chair. Since I've already agreed to the bet, I will just take one bite, Ram thought as he walked over to the table too. Please taste it. Mag passed a pair of chopsticks to Ram. Ram took the chopsticks and glanced at Mag before picking up a piece of chopped chili and putting it into his mouth. No, Mag couldn't stop him in time. Ugh! Ram's face flushed red instantly. The sourish and spicy taste exploded on his tongue. His tongue didn't seem to belong to him anymore. The spicy feeling spread from his tongue toward the rest of his body. The chill in his body was expelled instantly, and fine sweat appeared on his forehead. Phew! Ram let out a breath. His whole body felt unblocked after eating that piece of chili. You should have eaten the meat. Mag only managed to get the rest of his words out now. Of course I know this is the fish head. I was just having a taste earlier, Ram replied calmly before using the chopsticks to feed himself a piece of the fish meat. The hot and sourish taste of the chopped chili was the first to blossom. Because he had already eaten a piece of the chopped chili earlier, he didn't feel the taste was sudden or hard to accept. The slightly weaker taste allowed him to savor it in detail instead. The soft and tender fish head meat was fat but not greasy, spicy, and scrumptious. The unique steaming method locked the freshness of the fish head within the meat, and the chopped chili's spicy and tart taste engulfed and seeped into the entire fish head. The scrumptiousness blossomed from inside out. This was simply delicious. Ram felt as if a fireball had exploded in his head and became a dazzling firework. His scalp was tingling, and it was a very amazing sensation. Vaguely, he suddenly started to remember some things. In the morning before yesterday, he lost his temper with his two disciples for no rhyme or reason, and then drank the water he used to rinse his mouth. Yesterday afternoon, he tried to forge the sword that he left aside for over a year. After swinging for a few times, he fell asleep hugging the hammer. He forgot what he wanted to do after he woke up, and lost his temper with his two disciples again. Things that he had forgotten began to flash across his mind. His scalp was tingling, but he felt his brain had become clearer and clearer, as if the fog hovering in it was lifted slowly. Have I been living so horribly? Ram was depressed as he looked at the scenes. He hadn't reviewed his behavior since he'd begun to forget what happened the day before 2 years ago. He became irritable and paranoid. He drank heavily every day, and used anger to cover his embarrassment so he could maintain his identity as a master weaponsmith. He remembered what happened in his life for the last month after swallowing a piece of meat. Only the word horrible could describe it. He was no longer the person who was extremely demanding with his personal behavior and skills. Ram's emotions were very complex. He never imagined he would become someone like that. But, why could I suddenly remember all this? Ram was surprised. Although all these things had happened to him in the past, starting 2 years ago, he would already forget what happened before. However, now he began to recap what he had forgotten for the past 1 month. Could it be? Ram opened his eyes and looked at the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers on the big plate. He ate a piece of the fish earlier, could it have something to do with the fish head? With a skeptical mentality, Ram ate another piece of fish meat. The tender scrumptiousness still ravaged his mouth, but Ram's focus wasn't on it. The tingling sensation in his scalp was continuing, and even more images started to appear in his mind. The timeline kept moving backward. His eyes began to get wider and wider. The continuous memories reappeared in his mind, and they were very clear. The things that he had lost for 2 years had come back to him at that moment. This feeling was worth more than anything to him. This fish meat could make my head clear and my memories return in sequence. After swallowing the fish meat, Ram stared at the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers with astonishment. Even his voice was quivering. It even has this effect. Mag was surprised too. It looked like this fathead fish didn't grow a big head for nothing. However, seeing Master Ram being so agitated, could he have been bothered by an unclear mind before? Ram put another piece of fish meat into his mouth carefully again. He savored the delicious taste that was ravaging his tongue carefully before accepting the gift of his memories. His previous thought of just taking a single bite was tossed away. Both the exquisite taste of the fish head and the amazing discovery of returning memories had made him immerse himself deep within. Looks like old grandpa enjoys it very much. I will try it too. Amy was holding a small bowl as she reached toward the plate to get a piece of fish meat. She put it in her bowl before taking a bite. Whoa! Amy's eyes lit up. The spicy and sourish fish meat was soft and tender. It's so delish. As Mag saw the two of them were enjoying it so much, he, too, used his chopsticks to feed himself a piece of fish meat. The spiciness and tartness of the chopped chili were just right. It wasn't as spicy as the spicy grilled fish, and it wasn't as tart as the boiled fish with pickled cabbage. The spiciness that was just right made the spicy taste of the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers appear more gentle, yet had the attractiveness that made one lost within it. The fish meat was soft yet still bouncy. The perfect heat and timing made the fish's texture just right. It would have been too tough if it had been left to cook longer, or too soft if it had been taken out too early. After swallowing the fish meat, it became a warm current that heated up the body, and the tingling sensation in the scalp made the brain become sober and clear. Only a steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers that tastes like this can be called the real steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. A smile appeared on Mag's face. It was totally worth his effort in killing the fathead fishes for the whole night in the test field for the god of cookery. When they had eaten half of the fish head, Mag got up to toss the rice vermicelli into the boiling pot. Then, he sat down and continued to eat his dinner. The three of them were enjoying their dinner very much, and soon there were only a few big pieces of bones and chopped chili left on the plate. It's finished. Ram used his chopsticks to search among the chopped chili. There wasn't any meat to be found. He retrieved his chopsticks with disappointment. I think I could still eat one more of it. Amy put a piece of chopped chili into her mouth and chewed. She wasn't affected by the spiciness at all. Give me a minute. We still have the rice vermicelli. Mag got up and brought 3 bowls of rice vermicelli over. He scattered some chopped spring onions over them, and then scooped a few spoonfuls of the red gravy from the plate onto the rice vermicelli. He gave a bowl to Ram. Ram hesitated for a moment before accepting the bowl of rice vermicelli. The white rice vermicelli was drenched with the red gravy and garnished with the chopped green onions. The aroma was already greeting their noses. The gravy of the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers is also one of the highlights of this dish, Mag said with a smile. He sucked in a mouthful of rice vermicelli. The smooth and bouncy rice vermicelli was soaked with the gravy, and it was deliciously sourish. Ram saw that Mag was enjoying the rice vermicelli, so he took a bite too. Oh! Ram, who wasn't expecting much, suddenly widened his eyes. The gravy wasn't fishy at all. Instead, it was fresh and sour. Together with rice vermicelli, they went into his mouth smoothly. It was so delicious that he couldn't stop himself. How did the simple rice vermicelli become so delicious after the gravy was poured on it? Is this fellow a genius? Ram put down his empty bowl and looked at Mag with amazement. His previous prejudice against chefs had disappeared totally. This is the fathead fish caught in the extreme north territory of the Roth Empire. It is also called the icebreaker fish. Fish head has the effect of nourishing the brain naturally, and this fathead fish's head is much bigger than normal fish. And since it lives in an extreme cold environment, it might be the reason why it has some special effects, Mag said after pondering for a while. So that is the reason. Not everyone is able to venture to the extreme north. Ram suddenly understood, and then he felt lost again. After eating that steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers, he felt he had sobered up totally. Everything that happened in the past 1 year had become crystal clear, and he no longer felt trapped when he was thinking. This was obviously obtained after eating that fish. This crystal clear, sober feeling was extremely precious to him after living in a blur for 2 years. However, he obviously wasn't able to catch this big-headed fish from the extreme north by himself, hence, the hope of eating this fish frequently to maintain his soberness was naturally crushed. Mag looked at Ram's rapidly changing expression, and could already guess what he was thinking. Smiling, he said, "If Master Ram wants to eat this steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers, you can come and look for me at Chaos City. I have a restaurant there. If I have a cleaver that I can use, I will be able to provide this steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers every day." Chaos City. Ram was taken aback. He pondered as he looked at his workshop. He had stayed here for over 400 years, which was almost his entire life. He had also thought for many times that he was going to die here. He had never thought about leaving this place, no matter if it was during wartime or the peace. Maybe it was an attachment, or maybe it was fear. The outside world was strange to him. He didn't have friends, only customers. He had never left Eason Castle, and he didn't know the world beyond it. This old workshop was seen as the honor and holy place of a weaponsmith. It was his most glamorous outfit and also his sealed fortress. And now, Mag was inviting him with the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. Instead of dying in confusion, why don't I change a place to live and die sober on the forging table? Ram's gaze became determined, and the workshop that he had always held dear became worthless instantly. Ram turned around and seriously asked Mag, "I will be able to eat steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers every day if I go to Chaos City. If Master Ram could come and line up early, I don't see a problem." Mag nodded with a smile. Of course, this richest weaponsmith in the world didn't have to consider the issue of money. Ram nodded slightly without a word, but he had already decided in his heart. "Master Ram, about the bet we had earlier," Mag probed. "You won. I have to admit that the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers you made was the most scrumptious food I have ever eaten. It was also the most special food. I want to apologize for insolent words earlier." "You are an exceptional chef," Ram said gravely. "Master Ram is an honest person," Mag said smilingly. A smile also appeared on Ram's face as he said without any hesitation, "What kind of cleaver would you like? I can forge it and give it to you by tomorrow. This is the drawing. I need a cleaver like this." Mag took out a drawing and passed it to Rom. "Seems like you were very confident that you could convince me from the very beginning." Ram received the drawing with a smile. He stuffed it into his pocket after taking a quick glance. A cleaver was a piece of cake to him. "It's not easy for me to come to Eason Castle. It would have been a wasted trip if I couldn't have convinced you, Master Ram," Mag replied, still with a smile. Even though he had to stay for 1 more day, the mission was considered completed in advance. "We have finished the fish head, but I still have liquor. Do you want a sip of it?" Ram took the Bodas de Vino from his waist and passed to Mag. "I can only drink 1 sip with Master Ram because I have to take care of my child." Mag took the Bodas de Vino and tilted his head back, taking a big gulp. The liquor was strong, but not very tasty. Then, he returned the Bodas de Vino to Rom. "Since this is the case, I will not force you. Rom took the bottis de vino and took 2 big gulps. After wiping his mouth, he asked, "Where will you be staying tonight?" His gaze landed on Amy. This was the coldest time in winter, and the little girl was too young to stay overnight in the open. "We are going to check into the Tam Inn over there for the night," Mag said as he pointed to the front. Rom waved and said, "All right. You guys can go over there right now. Come to get your cleaver on tomorrow's evening." "Goodbye, Master Rom," Mag said, and kept the utensils that he had washed into his backpack. He took a burning branch from the fire to use it as a torch, held Amy's hand, and walked down the street. "Goodbye, old grandpa." Amy hugged Ugly Duckling and waved to Rom. Then, she skipped down the street with Mag. The street that wasn't very wide was paved neatly with stones. Every stone was cut into almost identical squares and pieced together perfectly. No visible seams could be seen. The houses at the 2 sides of the street were also neatly built with stones. The dwarves' exceptional skills and rigorous character could be seen from them. It wasn't the starry sky above the streets. Instead, there were black rocks which were just dozens of meters away from the ground. It made it difficult for people to discover it under the cover of the dark sky. However, there would be a big hole for the air to flow in and out and provide illumination at every short interval. They made the interior of Eason Castle seem less closed up and oppressive. This huge building complex that was built and extended over thousands of years by generations of dwarves was considered to be of superlative craftsmanship. There was no way it could be duplicated at all. The War of the Species had destroyed almost half of the castle, but after 100 years of peace, the Eason Castle was now even more spectacular and arduous. It was deemed as one of the most difficult to breach castles in this world. Mag led Amy to the end of the street. The cold wind extinguished the torch that he was holding in his hand totally. "This way." Mag looked around and saw a boisterous tavern at the end of the street. Sounds of laughter and discussions could be heard coming from there. Opposite of the tavern was the Tam Inn that they were looking for. The metal signboard was shaking vigorously in the wind, and the door was tightly shut. He could see the interior was lit up warmly through the windows, and there was also a courtyard at the side where there were many carriages and horses. Mag went to knock on the door, which opened very quickly. A hunchbacked old dwarf cracked open the door slightly, and warily asked Mag, "Do you want to stay here for the night?" "Yes. My daughter and I would like to spend a night in this inn." Mag nodded. In the tavern across, there were customers of all species. They were drinking hard liquor and talking and laughing loudly. "Lord Haydeng, did you manage to see Master Rom today?" the bartender asked Haydeng curiously. Those around them also looked over when they heard that. In Eason Castle, everyone was interested in anything about Master Rom. Haydeng glanced at that orc, and was certain that he wasn't an opponent that he could defeat. Hence, he decided to let things slide as he smilingly said, "However, there was a chef who hailed from Chaos City today. He said he came to ask Master Rom to forge him a cleaver. Don't you guys find it funny? Asking Master Rom to forge a cleaver? Is that fellow insane?" "That's right. Did he know who Master Rom is? He is the #1 weaponsmith on the Norland continent. Someone actually wants him to forge a cleaver. Did that fellow get hammered to death by Master Rom on the spot?" The tavern burst into a commotion instantly. The dwarves in Eason Castle were born to be blacksmiths, as even a 10-year-old child could forge a cleaver, and someone actually asked the legendary weaponsmith, Master Rom, to forge a cleaver. Wasn't it akin to asking for trouble? Smiling, Haydeng shook his head. "We left after Master Rom said he wasn't going to accept any orders, but that fellow wasn't very street smart, he refused to go. I'm also not sure whatever happened afterward, but that fellow was obviously a stubborn mule. He could still be going there the next day. We will be able to find out tomorrow. Then, we've got to go and see tomorrow. I want to see who's the fellow that is so daring to come to Eason Castle and insult Master Rom. Yes, let's go and see." People began to acknowledge and agree with him in the tavern. To the young dwarves, Master Rom was their idol. How could he be insulted like this? Mag, who just checked into the best room in Tam Inn, was packing up the room. He had no idea that there was a group of people preparing to watch him fail and even beat him up. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. There was nothing more important than letting Amy have a good sleep. Tam Inn wasn't a high-class hotel, and the cheaper rooms were even damp and messy. Hence, Mag spent another 100 copper coins for the best room in the inn. The room was on the second floor and away from the tavern, so they wouldn't be disturbed by the drunkard's screams and shouts. The room's decorations were very simple, just a stone bed, 2 sets of bedding, a small stone table, and 2 stone stools. There was nothing else in the room. The biggest difference when compared to the rooms on the ground floor was that the room was better ventilated and cleaner. Mag dumped the beddings onto the chair in the corner, and then bought 2 sets of comfortable feathered duvets from the system. Then, he carried the sleepy Amy onto the bed and covered her with the duvet. Ugly Duckling burrowed itself into the duvet and snuggled into Amy's arms. It fell asleep instantly. Early next morning, Joey and Joss came to the workshop, and discovered in shock the workshop's door was open. "Did the master get drunk again yesterday?" Joey said, feeling worried and unsettled. Master Rom had gotten drunk and slept at the door of the workshop recently. He was sick for a few days because of that. "Quick, let's go and have a look," Joss said anxiously. Even though the master always vented his anger on them, he was still the person they admired the most. The two of them quickly walked to the workshop's door, and they heard the sounds of hammering from within. The clear and crisp sounds had an amazing rhythm. "Is this?" Both of them were surprised as they had seldom seen Master Rom forge anything personally for the past few months. They were used to seeing him sit in front of the furnace in a daze most of the time, and he could spend the whole day just sitting there. Moreover, he would drink a lot of alcohol every night and wake up very late the next day. So, what was going on with the hammering sounds in the workshop now? Filled with doubts, the two of them pushed open the door gently and walked in. They saw Master Rom wearing thin clothing while standing in front of the forging table, and swinging his personal black hammer. He was sweating profusely as he hammered on a fiery red-hot metal mold on the forging table vigorously. Master Rom, who was over 400 years old, had a healthy and strong physique that could put many youngsters to shame. That black hammer, which weighed over 150 kg, seemed so light and agile in his hands. It turned, flipped, and then hammered forcefully onto that metal mold. The metal mold, which was mixed with many precious metals, changed its shape rapidly in front of their eyes. The metals merged together and formed a brand new alloy, being slowly molded into shape under the heavy hammer. Joss and Joey stood at the door and stared at Rom in a shock. The amazing rhythm between the hammer and him was so harmonious that it seemed heavenly. This was the first time that they had seen Master Rom so immersed in forging since they came to the workshop. This scene had totally subverted how they imagined forging was supposed to look. At this moment, he was no longer the irritable master. Instead, he was truly the famous forging master. He was using the astonishing skills that shocked the world and presented many awesome weapons. Ding! The hammer landed forcefully on the metal mold. Then, Rom slowly lowered his hammer as his chest rose and fell slightly. He grabbed a towel from the side to wipe the sweat on his face before smiling at Joey and Joss, who were standing at the door in a shock, and saying, "What is it? Do you want to learn?" "Yes." Joey and Joss nodded simultaneously without the need to think further. Laughing, Rom said, "You guys got to work hard if you want to learn. My skills are not meant for lazy bums." "Hey!" Joey and Joss were shocked to see the smile on Rom's face. Normally, Rom was always brooding, and had never smiled at them before, let alone offered to teach them forging. He only let them forge things by themselves or chase away the customers lining up at the door. "Why, you are saying that you are going to teach us how to forge weapons?" Joey was the first to react as he stared at Rom in disbelief. "Are really? Joss was still in a shock and disbelief. Since I let you into the workshop, naturally I am going to teach you things. As for how much you are able to learn from me, that will all depend on you. Rom picked up the heavy again, and smilingly said, I accepted a new order yesterday. Today, I will teach you how to forge a cleaver. Cleaver? Joey and Joss were stunned again. Are you talking about the cleaver that is used by a chef? Joey asked cautiously as he had angered Master Rom when he mentioned the chef's request yesterday. Why did he decide to forge the cleaver today? This pancake is super delicious. Outside the workshop, Haydeng and the rest had also arrived very early, and began to line up. Many of them had deliberately come to watch a good show after hearing Haydeng say that someone had come to ask Master Rom to forge a cleaver the day before. Has that fellow who asked the master to forge a cleaver come? Their gazes began to sweep across the line. There were 2 human knights in the line, but they didn't look like chefs at all. Maybe that fellow finally got it and scrammed. Haydeng, who was standing at the very end of the line, also looked around in surprise. Even he wasn't sure he could get Master Rom to forge a weapon for him, let alone a chef asking to forge a cleaver. The news of a chef from Chaos City asking Master Rom to forge a cleaver had spread within Eason Castle like a wildfire. It became the source of happiness in Eason Castle that day. Mag deposited his luggage at the inn temporarily after he checked out of the room. He was going to bring Amy out for breakfast. Mr. Mag? You guys are here too. Right at this moment, a voice sounded behind them. Oh, it's Mr. Godala, Mag said with a smile when he saw Godala walking over. Since Godala was also staying in this inn, it wasn't odd to bump into him. It seemed like he already had his breakfast, and was chatting with his fellow merchants. Godala came forward, and smilingly whispered to Mag, I heard you guys have become famous. The news that a chef from Chaos City asked Master Rom to forge a cleaver has spread throughout Eason Castle. We could get famous like this. Mag was surprised. He didn't do anything out of norm since he arrived at Eason Castle. He behaved like a perfectly prim and proper traveler. You have no idea about Master Rom's status in Eason Castle. You're asking him to forge a cleaver is akin to insulting all the weaponsmiths in Eason Castle, Godala said using a deliberately lowered voice. Oh, really? Mag said thoughtfully. He guessed the entire Eason Castle would go crazy if they knew Master Rom had agreed to forge the cleaver for him. You didn't get to meet Master Rom yesterday, right? It's okay. There are always so many people lining up at Master's, but they never get to meet him. You will get used to it, Godala consoled him. Don't worry. I feel fine, Mag answered with a smile. He didn't say the truth, because he was worried that Godala's reaction would attract too much attention. Father, I am hungry. Amy tilted her head to look up to Mag as she expectantly said, let's go and eat some delicious food. Anyway, I have nothing to do today, why don't I show you around Eason Castle? No one knows what is delicious here as well as me, Godala said smilingly. Then we will bother you, Mr. Godala. Mag's eyes lit up. They were new to this place, and it would be the best to have a guide so they could avoid tourist traps. After getting out of Tam Inn, they could see the light passing through the holes illuminating the streets. The shops on both sides of the street were open too. Most of the people walking on the streets were dwarves, but there were also 1 or 2 people from other species every now and then. The weapons of Eason Castle were popular throughout the entire Norland continent. Thus, there were many merchants who brought rare objects to Eason Castle to sell, and would then buy weapons from Eason Castle to sell to the rest of the world. They could earn a bucket load of money with just one trip. The dwarves could be considered as a neutral race, and enjoyed good relationships with all the other species on the Norland continent. Hence, they allowed all the species to trade in Eason Castle. Godala had already told Mag about the rules of Eason Castle and the dwarves on their journey here. He brought Mag to eat a kind of pancake that was called the dwarf pancake for breakfast. It was first deep fried and then baked till crispy in a hot oven. Its texture was crispy and the center was filled with savory pickled vegetables. It tasted like the combination of sesame cake and a hard flour pancake. It was crispy and not greasy at all, which surprised Mag. The pancake here is nice, right? Godala bit into the pancake in his hand, smiling, and continued, there are a few hundred pancake shops in Eason Castle, but none is as good as this one. I don't usually bring people here. This pancake is super delicious. Amy nodded. She held a pancake like a little squirrel, and munched on it very happily. It is indeed a very scrumptious pancake. Mag nodded. This was one of the benefits. He could never have found such a delicious pancake by himself. After having their breakfast, Godala brought Mag and Amy to a few famous sightseeing spots in Eason Castle, and they also ate many unique snacks along the way. They had a ton of fun. When it was almost evening, Godala said, Brother Mag, should I bring you to a smith I know to custom make a cleaver? Although he is not as good as Master Ram, he is also well known in Eason Castle. Given my friendship with him, he could even make it free of charge for you. Should we go over to him now? You can tell him what kind of cleaver you would like to have. Then, I'll bring you somewhere nice for dinner. Actually, Master Ram has already agreed to forge a cleaver for me yesterday. Looking at the time, I should be going to collect it now, Mag said smilingly after taking a glance at his watch. What? Godala was taken aback. He struggled to believe his ears. After old grandpa ate the fish head father cooked yesterday, he promised to make a cleaver for father, Amy added before gazing at Godala with anticipation. Uncle Merchant, what do you mean by something nice? Master Ram agreed to make a cleaver for you. Godala's voice became a few pitches higher. Then, he swiftly covered his mouth and stared at Mag in a shock. Being a merchant who had frequented Eason Castle for the past 20 to 30 years, he knew very well what Master Ram represented. Only powerhouses were able to get custom-made weapons from him, and they had to pay a very high price for it. Reportedly, a merchant was once lucky enough to obtain a custom-made weapon from Master Ram. He retired immediately after he sold it. Of course, this was just hearsay. In order to have Master Ram custom make a weapon, one would need both status and money. For the past 2 years, Master Ram hadn't accepted any new orders, nor released any new items. But now, Mag actually said Master Ram had agreed to custom make a cleaver for him, and he could even collect it today? This was even more shocking than Master Ram agreeing to make a weapon for him.